Consume, enhance, replicate.
Live. There we go.
So, Blue, I spent an hour, maybe about an hour and a half yesterday trying to walk Man at Arms through Voice Meter Banana.
Bless your soul.
Right?
I mean, okay,
Oh,
look. Here's the
God.
thing. I'm a huge fan of Voice Meter. Like, I absolutely love the program, but I will not disagree with anyone when they come up and they're like, "The hell is this thing?" I'm like, it's a pain in the ass to set up. Now, having it set up now, I can't imagine doing stuff with it because I have Voice Meter and then I also have it's Shea Volume, which basically
Mhm.
it allows me to like basically splice apart Windows operating system because Windows doesn't like giving you access to it. Shea Volume kind of is like, yeah, that's nice. Here's the back door to that. So that's how I've kind of set up totally different things on my voice meter. Is like I have every audio program. I can actually say, no, I want this program to go to this particular input. Whereas I think with just voice meter, I think there's a bit of limitation that you can do there.
They have,
because I think
with
they don't think.
Potato.
Oh, potato. That's right. Because yeah, but
Potato, you can
is
actually grab it from the operating system based off when it's open. You can set the from default to something else.
Oh, okay. So they basically So they so they basically have blended that in. I was looking at upgrading to Potato, which is I love their naming convention. It's like it's a banana. It's a potato. I can't. There was another one that they had. I think it might be just voice meter. I think is the base one. But
so for those in chat or anybody who may not know, voice meter, banana, and potato are essentially virtual sound mixers that allow you to take inputs from all sorts of different programs as well as hardware.
Yep.
Like I have my PlayStation actually ported in as its own audio source, so I can control my PlayStation volume in my headset. I can also play my PlayStation audio as well as the conversation audio that we're having right now at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't have to have two different headsets on.
And the other thing that I really, really like about voice meter as opposed to other like audio mixers is that IntelliPan exists on voice meter, and you can also have the compressor and gate. You can separate those out based off the input level. So like for anyone who's not super familiar with that, gate is really important because basically it will filter out background sounds until a certain I think it's decibel is reached, and then it activates the mic. And so like having that ability to really narrow down. I know people who do podcasts on Astro headsets, and they sound like they're on a professional mic because of voice meter, because they've been able to, like, you can boost your bass.
Right.
You can, and they have IntelliPan, which is basically here. I always love playing with this one. I can't really hear. Hang on. Let me. There. Okay. So you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this, or this, or this. Like you can just mess around with your audio, and it's real time. Like all that's just all on the IntelliPan. I love it.
It is nice. It makes you sound a lot more live than actually having to set up everything somewhere else.
That is true. Yep. My echo,
but
my feedback isn't delayed anymore for some reason. Thank you, random Windows update. I don't know why that's not. It's not. It used to be like 2 seconds delay, but I can actually hear myself in real time. I'm so excited. Sorry.
You're good.
That's all right.
It's something that I've had to live without for like 2 years now. And like I got when we first started doing the podcast, I forced myself to get used to it, because it basically like lets you kind of volume control yourself. And then like when I moved to my new PC and I actually like built out the audio inputs and everything like that, it actually, for some reason, I was running on a crappy laptop and there was no delay, like no problem. Moved to a nice PC and there was like all of a sudden a 2-second delay in the audio, and it was like, oh my god. And yeah, Pens is right. The next Windows update will just break everything.
Yep. It will. You know it will.
It's Windows. That's Windows.
Let us help you. No, please don't.
All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
I'm ready if you guys are.
Awesome.
Enhancing your... No, that's Skype. All right. Let me get back in here. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on June 12th, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the lore book, The Liar. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
Before we have any further, is that what we're going with this time?
Before we go any further, do we have any further? Oh, no. Hey, listen, if I ever did a perfect intro, I'd probably just, throw my hands up and be like, I'm done. I've done it.
This is the future forerunner. Green-eyed music lover.
How far are you on that?
About as far as anybody else can be
Okay,
at the moment, because it's going to be time gated. I've got, I think, 5 or 6 of the mods already done, and I do have the Heroic Public event finished. But the other ones,
did you get all 3 of them?
No. So the Heroic Public event, I don't think is going to be available for all 3 bosses yet. I think it's going to be on a rotating list.
Oh yeah, okay.
A weekly type thing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because I got the Heroic the other day, but then I was running around because I know that real quick. And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend, the Ice Warrior. Ice Warrior, how are you doing tonight? Or this morning?
Not doing too bad.
What time is it where you are?
It's currently 10 past 1 in the afternoon.
Okay. I'm just going to say, how are you doing?
It's Saturday for him.
It's Saturday. Future's looking pretty good. Weather's not too bad. A bit cold, but you know.
Is the stock market still doing its thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
It has not gotten any better.
It's not. Yeah. Okay. Oh man. But yeah, no. Yeah, they came out with that new title, and I was like, I remember Green, you messaged me, and then someone else messaged me. They're like, so you gotta go for this? I'm like, go for what? Because I don't normally pay attention to just the generic titles. And I saw that, and I was like, God bless it. So I'm like, all right, let's look into see what it's gonna take. By the time I got done researching this thing, I'm like, I'm getting it just because of the 6 hours it took me to figure out what I need to do.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean, Bungie's not been very clear on a lot of those kind of things. You kind of have to figure it out as you go. I do this week, just to let everybody know a little insight on the behind the scenes. Blue messaged me about the seasonal mods.
Listen,
for the Triumph.
There are 3 different versions of seasonal mods. And for someone who doesn't pay attention to what a mod does.
God. It took me an hour and a half to teach him where to go for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I was looking... Well, okay, and so the other problem is they aren't listed anywhere. There is nowhere that they're listed, which is really confusing.
Until you unlock them.
Mm-hmm. But they're not even in the collections.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So you just have to go back to Drifter daily to pick up your new one.
Yeah, speaking of which, I need to actually jump in and go over there. But, oh, man. So well, actually, Green, you know what? Since you are so good at leading people through things.
You know, it is one of my favorite talents. It's
walk through the introduction for Ice Warrior.
Yeah, so Ice Warrior, you kind of hinted at a little bit for those people who are paying attention to the math on the time zones that you are at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, which means that you are most likely on the other side of the world. So whereabouts are you from, good sir?
I am from the great huge, massive island called Australia. It is currently very cold over here. I actually live I live right at the bottom of Australia, the island state of Tasmania, an even smaller island in the middle of bloody nowhere.
Oh my goodness!
It is constantly cold down here, even during summer. So that's lovely.
And it's the winter season down there now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're so far south that people from all over the world come to exactly where I am in Tasmania to ship off to the Antarctic because it's so close.
Jeez.
That is both cool and terrifying.
It is quite literally very cool. Yes, you are very correct with that.
So where can we find you on the internet, or where can our listeners find you if they don't have you already on all the social medias and everything?
Oh, they'll be able to find me at the Ice Warrior 1 on Twitter, the Ice Warrior 209 on Twitch, on Facebook, and on YouTube.
So 209 on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, but Ice Warrior 1, by the way, there's an Ice Warrior 13 as well. Please do not go into his, although he may be a cool guy. You never know. Ice Warrior 1 is where you want to find. So, and speaking of Australia, we just had a raid show up. Destiny Down Under raided us.
Is it the Good Day raid?
Oh!
It is the Good Day raid. Welcome, raiders.
Good day.
And not.
For those who are listening to the podcast, this is the benefit of being in a live stream.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Come join us on Friday nights. So, all the good days going on.
Saturday afternoons for me.
Yes. Yes. All right, so we figured out where you're from. We know where to find you on the interwebs. Now it's time to get into some of the just standard introduction questions. What is your favorite lore in Destiny?
That's a very hard question.
I know. It's one of my favorites.
I'm honestly, as much as I, being a hunter man, I'm all about Last Word and Thorn and just that initial story and then how that's evolved over the years. I've got to say, my favorite lore piece is Mara making the wish to have Shax come over and read her the Tempest a week.
Well, he doesn't need to read it. He just tosses the book off to the side. He has it memorized.
No, he blows the book up, actually.
Yeah, he just summons Arclight in his hand.
Oh, gotta love Shax.
Yeah.
All right, so if
awesome.
Mara and you said did you say Last Word or your story specifically, or?
Yeah, so the whole story surrounding, the rise of Razor Lazir, the fall, and then all the way through up until we end up crafting Lumina. It's just this massively long, epic story, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, there's some good stuff, especially the D2 stuff, a lot of the clarity that came forth with it. So, is that specifically the story that got you into lore exploration, or were you a lore explorer before Destiny?
I think the Last Word story definitely sparked something for me, but I'd always kind of found playing through Destiny 1 that the story just captured me. The way they crafted it was just so enticing. I wanted to learn more about the world that it took place in, and then I just started delving into every story and grimoire card and everything I could find, and here we are.
I bet you're pretty excited to see Exo Stranger come back after that whole Bungie stream last week.
The clip's still up on. Well, it's not a clip. It's the whole stream's still up on Twitch. But I may be squealing at the top of my lungs and flailing my arms around like I'm absolutely insane. And to be honest, I kind of look a little bit insane while I do it. But yeah, I'm a little bit excited.
I mean, lore people tend to be a little excitable. We've learned that over the last few months with Mr. Mylan Games and his going live alerts on Twitter.
He has been he's an inspiration to all. He really is.
He is. He's embraced it.
You mean his descent into madness? Am I twitching? Am I YouTubing? Like, am I Twittering? Help!
We're Australian. It's part of the DNA.
There you go. All right. I'm kind of guessing that with the way that you said it earlier, that you're a hunter main, or what class do you primarily play?
Hunter. I was Hunter
Mhm.
D1 Beta. I've been Hunter ever since. As much as I don't know, I like hunters. It's always been like the kind of thing where their abilities have always been fun. I like moving generally quite fast. I'm not going to talk about the fact that the hunters should be the fastest class in Destiny when using Arcstrider, and I'm not going to talk about the fact that hunters get nerfed
Yeah,
quite a lot. No, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to cry. It's not going to happen.
it's okay.
Yeah.
We're all hunters here. It's a support group for you. But
Oh
yeah,
God, does it really feels like we need one.
yeah, it kind of does. I just want tethers to actually work again. But I digress. Someday the glory will come back to the class and we will be able to wreck your faces. But crazy question, kind of out of the blue question that's not included in the show notes for you at all to look through. What is your biggest theory that is coming up with the releases? What sparked your biggest theory about what's going on with the Traveler or Elsie, or why Eris and Trifter's out there? Do you have any like big theories right now? Because that's kind of like the big thing that a lot of the community seem to be doing, is just like what is going on. So everyone's theory crafting out the wazoo.
Well, it's actually as a bit of an aside. My daughter, who is about to be born any minute, well, not any minute now, but at some point soon. My partner's almost 39 weeks along. Her name is actually going to be Elsie, and I, in my
Yay!
infinite wisdom, didn't realize that. Oh yeah, Elsie Bray was a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot about that, and I was like, oh well, that's a Destiny tie-in. There you
There you
go.
go.
Biggest theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually stated in some of the promo material that Aramis will be the Kell of Darkness. That she is going to take that role. She's going to be wielding the darkness, much in the same way that we're going to in the next expansion. With that being a thing, I think we're going to see, and I really hope we do, we see Mithrax come to the fore to help us in some way against Aramis, because he already has before. They've set that precedent. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking we might even see the Traveler maybe intervene and give Mithrax some sort of ability, maybe not exactly like a Guardian, but there might be something there, and that would be the best time to bring it in, because that whole three-way battle between him, Aramis, and Varix. Oh God, I hope they bring that to the fore. But yeah, I'm really thinking that we're not gonna. This is not going to be the last we're going to see of someone like Aramis getting paracausal powers. We might see another Cabal do it, or we might see we might see another Fallen do it. Who knows? But I'm thinking we're going to see a little bit more of that in the future.
That would certainly be interesting. I know that a lot of people have discussed the possibility of the other races being allies besides Mithrax and the 0 hour mission, but the idea of them getting powers as well is something that I haven't heard yet. So I'm intrigued to see if that becomes an actual aspect of it, because we have seen the darkness give power, quote unquote, to the other races. Specifically, the Hive is the most notable one, but it would be interesting to see if there is somebody, or maybe even a Vex. Like, I know the Vex aren't necessarily on our side or anything like that, but you never know. We did have that one Harpy, the Captain Harpy.
That's very true.
Yeah,
But
cool.
that's the thing, is that's what's making me think about that at the moment. Is it Aramis is called the Kell of Darkness, and
Mm-hmm.
Mithrax is meant to be the Kell of Light,
Mm-hmm.
of the House of Light. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with that.
It would indeed. All right, Blue. Where do we have any special announcements this week, or are we good to head into the actual book itself?
No, I mean, other than just I really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten from the the weekly lore roundups that we've been doing.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep doing that. We're doing a podcast and a YouTube kind of, I guess, series, air quotes, around that.
Articles,
the
gathering.
audio / articles one we're gonna do every
Forming of the
Wednesday.
fellowship.
Mm-hmm. And then the video one we'll do every Friday. So just keep your eyes out on that. That'll be published over on thelorenetwork.com. But other than that, no, I don't think I have anything that I can think of off the top of my head.
Cool. So, time to dive into the book.
You want to start at the beginning?
Oh my gosh, you even did the nerd laugh. That's so cute.
That's
We're going to
amazing.
begin. We're going to do The
Oh.
Liar. And I get to start with the first card. So,
Oh, yeah.
guess what the first card's called? The Beginning, since Blue spoiled it. It's exciting.
Get it?
But
Get it? We start at the beginning.
oh my gosh, I'm going to slap you one of these days through the computer.
Freaking
All right.
spoiler in the chat.
Spoiler.
Oh.
See, no spoilers. No spoilers. Amazingly, he stopped after just 2. All right. Here we go. The Beginning, Part 1. A risen Exo stood dazed in the middle of what looked like a giant library. He'd never been here before, as far as he could remember. He'd never been anywhere before. He couldn't remember anything, and all he had to go on was the name given to him by a strange silver drone. A name he didn't even recognize. Fellwinter. All around him were giant gilded shelves, half of them broken, littered with tattered books and cracked cylindrical cases. He stepped on a book and broke its spine as he walked. The little drone followed him. I know you don't trust me, it said, but you have no choice. Who else have you got? I don't know, Fellwinter said. He thought for a second. I don't know anything. Exactly, so you should listen to me. The soaring height of the ceilings made the building feel like an open space. Remnants of an old fresco loomed over his head, cracked and faded. Maybe it was beautiful once. Fellwinter trudged through the empty fog of his memory, trying to understand how he got here. You're stubborn, obviously, but if we stay here long, you're going to die. Fellwinter tried to tune out the little drone's voice. He needed to think. He picked his way through the ocean of books, but stopped dead when an explosion rocked the building. He looked up. Dust fell from the faded ceiling in clouds. See, the drone said. This is what I mean. We have to go. A place like this isn't safe. Beside them, a computer terminal, one that looked broken beyond repair, flickered to life. The buildings shuddered again. A warbling female voice came on over a PA system, crackling and distant. Site-wide lockdown initiated. Then a reassuring male voice, smooth, but made eerie by the warped quality of the recording. All library patrons, please report to the nearest emergency station. If you require assistance, an attendant can help you at the reception desk. The recording cut off, and the building shook again. Metal shutters began to descend over the windows, groaning from age and disuse. Something big hit the building, and debris showered down over them. We should hide, the drone said, and Fellwinter had no choice but to agree. They fled the library. Outside, crouched in the rubble of another building, they watched together as the library was crushed under a torrent of what looked to Fellwinter like falling stars. See, the drone said. I like this book because it kind of gives you a little bit of flavor on Fellwinter's ghost, Fellspring, which we don't have her name yet in the book, but she's a little snarky, and hey, guess what? She's not going to tell you jack diddly squat like any other ghost. Oh my goodness. Yep. But Fellwinter wakes up in a library, and most likely on Earth, because it doesn't seem like he has intergalactic travel per se.
It depends on when you think that he... Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I was going to say it depends on when he gets obsidian wings, but then I remember obsidian wings is after he meets up with the Iron Lords. We're talking in chat. we're talking in chat real quick about there's a card from way back called Ghost Fragment: The Golden Age 2. And it refers to Anomaly 779, which is also known as the Never Be. And the reason why we're talking about it in chat is because it is specifically about a like mysterious hallucinogenic fresco. And so that's why like we were talking in chat, because it's like, you know, he first said like one of the first things he sees is like this giant fresco, and it's like, just for me especially, it just like immediately sparked my memory. I don't know, I don't think it's the same one, because all he says is a remnants of an old fresco, cracked and faded. Maybe it was beautiful once. Whereas if you read Ghost Fragment Golden Age 2, it's like you get a lot of fun feelings by looking at it.
I mean, isn't that most Renaissance and prior frescoes?
Well, this one, yes, I would agree with that. But this one actually has, it has been moved, which is an interesting thing. But it calls out that there's evidence that the fresco ties into quantum computers set into a parallel dimension or on a distant world. So I don't think it's from the Renaissance.
Probably not. I mean, it
not
could
our,
be.
not humanity's Renaissance, at least. Maybe a Vex Renaissance.
Ooh.
But yeah, like
That's
I love.
Terrifying thought.
Oh, it's so. Yeah, it's so good. And also like the Never Be is it's an actual like hallucinogenic thing. Like I think it says something like 5 to 77 images are generated per participant. So it's like, it actually is like it reminds me of the sensoriums that you saw in the Croc and Mare intro book. That's kind of like the way I kind of take it. But yeah. I also did want to call out, this correlates with a entry that we got back in Destiny 2 Vanilla called Winter's Guile. This is basically happening concurrently with that entry. That entry actually has a bit more of the conversation that is going on. It is when Fellwinter is specifically given his name by Fellspring, and that's really all it is.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Ice Warrior, do you want to take the second card, part 2?
I certainly can.
Absolutely.
All right. The beginning, part 2. Fellwinter and the drone travelled for 3 days. They saw nothing and no one. On the third night, still walking, Fellwinter looked up and saw meteors like streamers against the night sky. He was struck by the sight, and then by one meteor in particular, blazing, orange, getting bigger and bigger in the sky. Run, the drone said. The first meteor hit the ground behind them. Not a meteor at all, Fellwinter realized when he looked back, but something metal, man-made. The second hit its target. He died. 6 deaths later, crawling out from under metal wreckage, losing pieces of himself, clawing, running, they finally managed to find shelter in a cave. Fellwinter said, as if he was swallowing all of his words and choking on them. I can't fix you, the drone said after scanning him. That last hit corrupted write-protected processes in your cognition modules. The drone spun uneasily. You're an exo. Exos were made in the Golden Age, with proprietary tech. I can't hack into your head to fix the damage, but I can rebuild you as you were. If you shot yourself, I could work quicker. He did. When the drone resurrected him, Fellwinter crumpled to his knees. He sat down and put his head in his hands. Why is this happening? He asked. He looked at the drone, trying to read its body language. Because of you? It's after you, isn't it? No, the drone said. I don't know why. Then it gentled its voice. The Traveler told me to save you, but something was different about you. That ball in the sky you showed me, it talked to you? I can't explain it. Felwinter grunted and held his head again. His body ached with the memory of 7 deaths, though he knew that was impossible. Can you explain anything? Not really. They sat in silence for a while. Eventually, the drone spoke up. We shouldn't stay in one place for very long. I don't think it's safe. Felwinter stared at the ground, then finally looked up at the drone. How will I sleep? You don't need to. But I want to. That's fine.
I like how she still didn't answer his question.
Oh yeah.
She's just like, that's nice.
It's like, I'm not concerned with your petty mortal concerns. You sleep if you want to, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. I like how the Exo stuff is called out here a little bit about the repairs on Felwinter. His recovery stat is terrible.
Oh yeah. But this actually ties into one of the ghost stories from I think it was Forsaken, with the Guardian trapped on the Almighty, and the ghost is talking about theories about how they actually resurrect Guardians, and it speaks of them possibly pulling out a template from an alternate dimension of the Guardian or alternate timeline of the Guardian that they're assigned to, and that I think kind of leads into it a little bit more because he says, I can't get into your head and fix the damage, but I can rebuild you as you were before the damage took place. So I think that is a nice kind of tie into this. Is actually they have a template they work with. They go, okay, this is how they were. I can rebuild them to that point, but I can't fix the damage they currently have. Well, when it comes to Exos, at least, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think the only thing, and we're talking about that in chat a little bit too, the only thing that I challenge that with is that in the early Grimoire cards, it specifically called out that Exos are self-aware war machines so advanced that nothing short of a ghost can understand their inner functions, which means like basically that the ghosts were the only things that could repair the Exos. So I found it curious that in this situation he's like, or she's like, I can't fix you. You're and I think
she does call out that she can fix him, just that she can't fix him quickly.
I didn't read it that
I can
way.
make you as you were is I think the line. I can make you as you were, but it would be faster if you killed yourself.
I can't hack into your head to fix the damage.
Yeah,
but I can rebuild you as you were.
Right. See, so like I was reading that as she can't fix him, but she can recreate him.
Yeah, and she does say if you shot yourself, I could work quicker, and that would be tying into the his recovery stat is absolutely shit. Mm-hmm. But that's how I'm reading that, and anything regarding the Exos in any Grimoire card, I always kind of wonder of how much do people in the public know about Exos realistically. But then also, is this Clover Spray saying this? Is this the Clover Spray Corporation actually saying, oh, all Exos are amazing? Yeah, I don't know. I'm always a bit wary of that kind of thing.
Well, and the other thing to take into account here also is not that in game or in the story that we realize it just yet, but Felwinter is in of himself not a normal Exo, and so
this is true.
And so like there's like 2 or 3 things that kind of like make me not think that this is like, I know everyone loves me when I say this is not a retcon of the Grimoire card, because first off, Felwinter, we go to find out Felwinter is a special situation, but also, and this is what I think Black Flag was mentioning it, Felwinter's injury is a neurological injury. It's not a physical injury. So when she says, where does it, proprietary tech can't hack into the head, when we get to the Siddhartha Golem card, we also see that it's something similar with Rasputin. So there might be something going on with Fellwinter's internal circuitry that is actually prevented both to his benefit, and here you see the negative side effect of it. So, you know, there's a couple different options there that make me not too concerned, but I did find it interesting that we get that little bit of detail from Fellspring here.
Absolutely. Any other concepts or questions for this card?
Not really. Well, actually, no. There is one thing. I think this is something that Fellwinter does kind of show this, though not as openly throughout the rest of his life. He's tired. He's very tired. From the moment that he wakes up, you get the sense that he kind of feels that. And that is a sense that doesn't really go away. And I think that actually does come up in the Ultimate Wings, where in that lore bit where he does have that option to, do what he's going to do. You kind of still get that sense of he's just tired, and he just always has been. And I think that's really interesting, especially when it comes to exos and having these human mannerisms and whatnot. You kind of feel like he has that a little bit more strongly, I guess, than most other exos, which is interesting.
I'd rather be tired like Fellwinter than hungry like Drifter, though. Just saying.
Oh.
Drifter and his never-ending need for food.
I was going to say, on the fatigue, it reminds me of the Ghost Fragment XO3. I don't think they're the same. I don't think Ghost Fragment XO3 is Fellwinter because it talks about fighting in a war and stuff like that. And
endlessly.
I think and it also the EXO that's speaking in Ghost Fragment 3 is he's beaten up, and I don't ever get that sense from Fellwinter, but I do, and this is another thing that I will be bringing up when we get to the Siddhartha card, because I actually just thought of it, but I think I might have an idea or I have a theory maybe of where the fatigue comes from, but it will be then, not now, because I don't want to spoil it.
Well then.
Righto.
Let's move on so we can get closer to that card. We're going to start with the name. And I'm skipping over blue as far as reading it because I color-coded wrong on the show notes, so I'm just going to go with it. It's fine.
Awesome.
It's fine. I am good at this, guys. I've only been doing it for, 4 years now? 3 years now?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
temporal
3.
passage is not my strong suit.
The name. 6 months of running taught Fellwinter 2 lessons about life. The first lesson was this: anything could happen at any time without explanation or reason. The second lesson was this: it didn't matter how unfair something seemed, recognition of injustice could not create a just world. There were other lessons too, those taught in more tactical, going back, there were other lessons too, though those were more tactical. Never rest in the same place twice, and don't rest at all if you can help it. Never cross an open field if a less exposed route exists. Beware of meteor showers. Look out for organic enemies, but don't waste your time avoiding them. They aren't the real threat. That night, Fellwinter and the drone sheltered together in a loft of an old barn. A vicious rainstorm outside impaired visibility enough just to justify an overnight, but Fellwinter couldn't stop himself from thinking, from assessing. Flimsy building, big empty field, low attack readiness in this loft. Flimsy building, big empty field, low attack readiness. And still, no matter what the drone said, that he didn't need to sleep, he felt an inexplicable exhaustion. He couldn't locate it precisely. It permeated all of him. The drone noticed. It never said anything, but Fellwinter knew it noticed. He rested his head on his knees. Beside him, the drone hovered at his shoulder, drifting away occasionally to assess the weather through a glassless window. Eventually, Fellwinter raised his head. "What's your name?" he asked the drone quietly. What? Your name, he said. You gave me one. What's yours? I haven't thought about it. Silence fell between them again. They lived in silence, but in recent days the silence had changed. If before it was the silence of strangers, now it had become the silence of a team, where each member knew their job and what was at stake if they didn't perform. The lights of Fellwinter's eyes narrowed briefly into lines as he thought. He glanced at the drone. Spring. What? The drone said. Fellspring, Fellwinter said. That's your name. They stared at each other. Are you serious? The drone said. Fellspring? Fellwinter gazed past her. Silence again. Fine, said Fellspring. Are you serious?
Are you serious? She's like, I give you a blank book to name me, and this is the you come up with.
I mean, it's better than Ghost.
I don't know. Tyrus is pretty happy about that.
Why is it when I hear that, I'm immediately thinking, you would absolutely be Fellspring in this instance. Like, are you serious?
I like it. Now, the other thing I wanted to
seem like they'd be great friends.
Yeah, they probably would be. They're both kind of sassy. It may be just my reading of it too, though.
No,
I like making
it. It's pretty aligned.
That's canon.
Yeah, that's pretty aligned with my reading of it. I definitely got the sass.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you imagine a Ghost conference being like Sundance, Fellspring, Sagira, Pulled Pork? Pulled Pork could just be the clueless little brother just going, oh, this is nice. Hey guys, hello, and then everyone's just trying to be really serious about it. And they're just like, oh, God.
It strangely looks like an AA meeting, but for Ghost.
Oh, that happens. They're talking to each other going, guess what my Guardian did today?
Again.
Well... For the 50th time, oh God!
Why are you doing that way?
Please let this be a thing. I want a law book of just AA meetings for ghosts. I want it. I want it so bad.
I mean, we have Ghost doing their what was it? The Ghost Theater Presents.
But why is it so sexually charged?
Ghosts have feelings too.
Oh. We noticed.
Unrealized, repressed feelings for other ghosts, guardians. Unsure. Ghosts apparently have a thing for guardians, particularly Shax.
And
But,
Marcus.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Blue. I don't have anything about besides
the only big thing
into that.
Yeah, the only big thing on that one is like it's 6 months since the resurrection of him. So like it is kind of like there's some like really subtle call outs to the passage of time here, which I kind of like. We do have a couple that have no passage time, which I'm like, ugh. It's like maybe we could track how long. Nope.
We're never gonna get that. What are you talking about?
Negative. So I think mine is the assailant. Perfect. After 3 weeks without any incidents, Fellwinter and Fellspring stopped avoiding main roads. They started passing by other traveling parties, even a small camp. They never engaged until an Exo Risen asked to tag along with them on his way to a place called Red Valley. Neither Fellwinter nor Fellspring liked the idea, but they both reluctantly accepted it, with an unspoken agreement between them that it shouldn't last. Nice day, isn't it? Said Griffin 11. He looked up at the blue sky and opened his arms. Good traveling weather. We're lucky. Fellwinter and Fellspring exchanged a look, then focused on the road ahead again. Griffin looked at Fellwinter, hoisted his pack up on his shoulder. Where are you headed anyway? You never said. Fellwinter took a beat too long to say, not sure. This stumped Griffin. Inexplicably, Fellwinter thought, huh, he said. Just walking? You could come with us, said Griffin's ghost. She wore a green and yellow shell with flower-like petals. Nope, said Fellspring. Then, remembering the world of polite conversation, she added, We're going somewhere. We just don't know the name. Griffin and his ghost absorbed that information, nodding. An adventure, Griffin said finally with a grin in his voice. Right? This whole world's an adventure, isn't it? And we get 1,000 chances to live it. Fellwinter said nothing. He felt uneasy. He rarely spoke, but when he did, he never sounded like Griffin did. His voice never sounded like that. He never even had the impulse to talk that way. Why? They walked on, passing through a string of abandoned factories. There was evidence of the fallen everywhere, but it looked old. Ripped up banners, trampled in the mud. A walker stripped of most its parts. Griffin loosed his gun from its holster, casually, but didn't break his step. Gunfire stuttered out from an open doorway. A bullet clanged off Fellwinter's shoulder like a clapper off a bell. Arming his rifle, he returned fire in the direction the shots had come from. He should have known this was a bad spot. Low visibility, a lot of corners, squat buildings they couldn't see inside of, hundreds of rusty shipping containers to hide in. The doorway was a decoy. 10, 20, 30 armed and armored combat frames with glowing red eyes spilled out of warehouses to their left and right. Moving with discipline and an eerie synchrony, the frames began a pincher maneuver trying to pin them down. Griffin swore. We have to get to cover, Fellwinter said. Fighting back to back, rezzing each other when they died, Fellwinter and Griffin took down some 15 frames with gunfire alone, and a few more with grenades. Several got back up despite crippling damage, tottering forward on bent and broken legs, relentless, single-minded. They drew inexorably closer as the two Exos ran down their ammunition and energy. It was Griffin who saved them in the end, with 3 bolts of arc light that erupted out of his hands. As the frames closest to them disintegrated in a shower of blue light, Griffin whooped and said breathlessly, I've never done that before. Fellwinter went to examine one of the mostly intact frames. Griffin followed. Damn, he blurted. Do you know what these are? No, Fellwinter said. Not Exos. Fellspring zipped in between them. She scanned the frame, bathing it in blue light. She hesitated and then offered, Rasputin? I think so, Griffin's ghost agreed. See this logo? She indicated a symbol on the frame's chassis that looked a little like a military badge. Matches my database. Yeah, said Griffin. He looked at Fellwinter. What'd you do to get a war mine on your case? Fellwinter stared down at the frame. What's a war mine?
Does anybody else get the feeling that Griffin is like Griff from RVB? Red versus Blue?
Did you ever wonder why we're here?
Did you ever wonder about just life in general?
What's all that stuff about God? Do you want to talk? No.
Just a little bit.
I get this massive feeling like Griffin kind of has the same kind of personality as I imagine Lord Timur does. So I kind of like it probably isn't going to be the same guy, but it really feels like, especially the way that he kind of talks to Fellwinter later on, is okay. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think Griffin's like a little bit more carefree than Timur. I mean, I see what you're saying though, because like he's very stream of conscious, kind of.
Yeah.
But like he's also like super not jaded, whereas Timur was definitely
he's
insane.
a Cade group. Like he's like Cade.
Yeah.
Without the gallows humor.
Griffin is the Destiny version of Team Avatar. Encountering the musical group.
Secret tunnel.
The secret tunnel.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's a funny aside. My partner had been seeing that for the last 2 years, right? Hadn't realized what it was from. She could not remember. Just every so often she's like, secret. Oh, Jesus Christ. So we sat down and rewatched Avatar, right? I, of course, had forgotten about it myself when it got up to that episode. And then she's like,
oh my gosh.
I didn't hear the end of it for the next 2 weeks. It's all that she was saying.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I did want to call out. I like the kind of call out here that ghosts have a basic database.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, wait, back up.
That makes
What?
sense though, because
I
they
mean,
have
it
to
kind-
carry around their own information. They would have to that would also explain why the ghost had no idea what the pyramid was when our ghost saw the pyramid for the first time.
True. Even though it
I
wasn't
know.
his first time seeing the pyramid.
I know. We know. Ghost is forgetful. Defragmentation's happening all the time. Just losing his mind.
That's why we don't download the world's grave, Ghost. It's too much information. But no, like I think that was an interesting thing, tying back into a couple theories about where ghosts come from, at least. Because like, oh, they have Rasputin in their database. That's interesting. Okay, cool. All right, carry on.
That actually brings up a very interesting point. I mean, just over our time frame from the moment we're resurrected in D1, Ghost has downloaded a bunch of stuff, like every mission, strike, raid, everything. He's downloaded a lot. Like, how is he just not just exploding from that information by this point? That's just insane.
I know, like with the
It's
world,
why
like
he can't open doors very quickly.
Ooh.
It's
He
why we
needs
have
to do
to
it.
fight things.
They need to do a system defrag, you know?
Because I know from World's Grave that there is a call out that he takes the World's Grave information and he makes a comment. He's like, "Oh no, like this is way too much." And there's a call out, I think either in like the mission, I want to say it's in that mission, but he basically makes a comment about going back to the city to get rid of it. He's like, I need to upload this because I can't do it. So I know like there is a, and we know with like the ghost network with that, you know, like the unconnected ghost form for the intelligence stuff, like there is a degree of like a network that they can connect and share information on, which is also super interesting because you see a similar network with the frames and the red jacks. Because that's what our site and Dahlia keep like inadvertently hacking. Is they keep like overwriting all the frames around them on that kind of wireless network.
Which actually does kind of okay because it was a Destiny 2 it was a Destiny 2 bloody high video that Bungie had organized. It was one done in Japan where it was that live action trailer for it.
Oh yeah. The dance
basically
off
confirms that ghosts are Bluetooth speakers. They are.
I really
absolutely
wish that was accurate in game because I still love the very like one of the very first ones where they're on the moon. He's like, Ghost, play something nice, and it's like the classic. I think it was like was it Hell's Bells? It was something AC/DC, and it was just like it's just like oh my gosh. I was like, yes, I want that.
Imagine if we could sync up. We have the ghost just flying by us, just pulsing with the music, and we could just hook it up to like a Spotify playlist. Oh,
I mean,
Bungie,
to be fair, that's what Pradith and Kabir and Pahaning were doing in the Great Ahamkara Hunt. They were chasing the Ahamkara while listening to pulsing Golden Age music, I think is what they described it as.
Dubstep. They're total dubsteppers, you know it.
Yeah.
Light flashing.
Of course they are.
Oh god, now I'm just picturing them going through the vault and just be like...
That's why they went to the vault. It's got all the glow sticks.
Oh no.
And the best part is what's the effect of radiolarian fluid? It's hallucinations.
No.
It's liquid ecstasy.
They're gonna be listening to dubstep, tripping balls, trying to kill Afiel. Oh wow!
It's the Vex
Oh
rave.
wow!
You can't see it, but I'm face palming.
Nothing but the highest quality content here on the channel.
Absolutely.
Discussing the
That
real questions: do Guardians get high as fuck when going on a raid?
they probably do. You have some of them. I have a theory about what happens, like the difference between the Red War Beast and the Leviathan War Beast. That's maybe a show on Spinfoil Theory at some point. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I
Oh, what are we even
think
up to?
we should go to the bunker before we get too much down this rabbit hole. So if you
Not a
could
bad
do us
idea.
a favor on that one, Ice Warrior.
The mountain.
The bunker.
The bunker, which would be the next card.
Oh, okay. That is not the one that I have. Okay.
Yeah, I shifted things around because I broke the things, so I shifted it to make it better so you get to read again. So if you
No,
if you
that's
want
right.
to put
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I can do it. So, sorry about that.
Sweet.
Anyway.
No, not my fault.
Alrighty. So, the bunker. I can get it open, Fellspring said, as Felwinter pried open two rusted metal doors with his hands. You don't have to do that. The metal screamed as Felwinter ripped the two doors back. They were deep underground in a bunker Fellspring had struggled for 6 days to locate. Now that they'd found it, Felwinter realized he didn't know what they were looking for. I don't know very much about Rasputin, Fellspring said, floating cautiously beside him. I thought he was deactivated, or destroyed in the collapse. Felwinter walked forward. The room was like a time capsule, untouched, preserved, as if technicians might walk in at any time to work the control panels lining the walls. It reminded him of the library where he'd woken up, just in its complexity and maybe beauty. Was this beautiful? He wasn't sure. So why would a Mournmind be after us? Felwinter muttered. Wellspring hovered to examine a flat black surface on one of the control panels. I don't know. Felwinter came up beside her. He hesitated, and then reached to touch the shiny blank surface of the panel. It blinked to life under his hand, bright code and controls glowing orange, rearranging themselves as he dragged his finger across them. How did you do that? Felspring whispered. Felwinter shook his hand. He touched another blank panel, and lights came on all over the bunker, waking it up. I don't know, he said. Really setting up the rest of the story for Felwinter here in this one, which I quite enjoy. But it's just interesting that Felwinter, it kind of get the feeling like he either just doesn't trust his ghost too much still at this point, or even he's like, I just can't be bothered, and just straight brute force approach rips the bloody doors open just to get in.
I almost want to say it's the secondary one just because of the impatience factor. Because they're working together and they understand things, and he just does not want to be out in the open in any way, shape, or form at this point. But Blue, did you have anything on the bunker?
The only thing is this is the last one that we have a definitive date, and I would say this is probably about 7 months after his res date. That was really the only big thing to me. There's a couple other big things that happened, but they're obvious, like his activating things and stuff like that. Again, we'll definitely start figuring out why that is later in the. I think that's going to be around the search or the discovery. The discovery is when we kind of get all that kind of confirmed.
Yeah. As an aside note for the bunkers as well, and I did tweet about this a couple of times. I really hope that the cat in the bunkers is okay. That cat that you see disappear behind the boxes.
Yeah.
It's amazingly little tiny piece of world building that is just beautiful and amazing, and I love it. And it's just part of this whole evolving world thing, and it's great. I want them to have saved the cat. I want the cat to have a bed in Zavala's office, or it has the bed in Zavala's office, and you just see it wander around occasionally with Zavala and Ikora and everything, and Zavala just absolutely hates the thing. Just like, oh God, get away! You hear like voice lines from him going, "There's cat hair all over my chair." Just weird stuff like that would just be just so good.
Playing with a yarn ball.
Oh,
One of
yeah.
Zabella's yarn balls.
It's mine. Stop
and
it.
you can interact with him, and just like give him a pat or something. Seriously, Bungie just needs to hire me at this point.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so we move on to the mountain, which is the card that I stole from Ice Warrior.
Yes.
The mountain. Warsats and combat frames found Fellwinter and Fellspring everywhere they went. They weighed the pros and cons and decided that a fortified home base was safer than picking a new ramshackle camp every time they wanted to rest. It was risky, but so was everything. So Fellwinter climbed a mountain. At the top of it was a pre-Golden Age observatory they found in a map database in a Seraph bunker. It was the perfect place to hide. It had a 360-degree view of the surrounding area, existing structures that could be fortified, a mountain they could burrow into to hide themselves beneath thousands of tons of rock. "He won't find you up here," Fellspring said. "Or, at the very least, you'll see him coming." She sounded almost hopeful. "Maybe we could finally stop running." Fellwinter looked warily at the sky and said nothing. The only problem with the mountain was that it was occupied. A warlord named Castor had claimed it and the village at the mountain's base. But Fellwinter knew that everyone had a price, and he called on Castor to negotiate. Warlords, he learned, were poor negotiators. They were almost never willing to give ground. In the end, Fellwinter shot Castor's ghost and pushed him off the side of the mountain. A month later, during a routine patrol of the mountain's perimeter, Fellwinter found a woman sitting on a rock ledge halfway down the mountain. Beside her, there was a wooden crate of sad-looking crops, and another heavy with ammunition. She stood up when he arrived. Fellwinter exchanged a look with Fellspring, then asked the woman, "Who are you?" "My name's Arthi," she said. "You killed Lord Castor, didn't you?" "Yes." "So you're the lord of this mountain now?" "It's my mountain," Fellwinter said, "but I'm no warlord." Arthi studied him. She had a thin, weathered face and calculating brown eyes. "My village is down there," she pointed down the mountain. "We need protection." That was Castor. "Now, it's you." She pointed to the crates as if she were explaining something to a very simple child. "This is our payment." Fellwinter looked at her, then at the crates, then said again slowly, "I'm no warlord, and I don't need your food." Arthi's expression was as blank and unreadable as his own. "I'll be back next month." I like Arthi. She is sassy.
Arthi's also really important, actually, in Fellwinter's story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll talk about her a little bit more with the next entry, actually, which is where her importance really shines. I do want to say real quick. Sorry, I really hope that Castor's ghost was named Pollux.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
If that's the case, Fellwinter killed him in the right order. You kill Pollux first, and then you kill Castor. Because if you kill Castor first, Pollux will save him. Yay, mythology!
I kind of almost imagine at this point that he's killed his ghost, and Castor's just like right there, and he just goes, this is my peak, and then just Sparta kicks him off the mountain.
I wonder how far he'll fly.
Oh, now I'm just thinking of him just floating through the air like that meme's like
Well,
and it just Cass is floating off into infinity.
How far can you fly? How many flaps does a dead ghost?
Oh no. I was just thinking, how did Arthi know that Castor was gone?
He landed in their village probably.
Just kaplunk.
It's just like the what was it? I think it was like a while back we were talking about, where do all the guardians that jump off the tower go? Like there's like a support group for the civilians that live against the wall. It's like, oh no, oh, it's just another guardian. Okay, never mind. Back to normal, just to keep going.
Like all the houses near the tower is just like reinforced metal bloody roofs for all their house just to make sure.
Oh. I can't. No.
This is Vostok.
That hurts me.
Oh, he lands in the village, Avengers Endgame style, with the Hulk. Just what's going on?
Oh my
So begins the tradition of Guardians throwing themselves off high peaks.
Yes, because it is always a dream of the Guardians to fly. Because their super ran out.
Warlocks.
Blue, do you want to close out the intro session with Warlord?
Yes, actually. So, Warlord. True to her promise, Arthi came back the next month with 2 more crates. This time both were ammunition. She sat next to them, hugging her knees for warmth and looking out at the valley below, until Fellwinter came by to retrieve it. I thought this might be more useful to you, she said, since you don't want food. Fellwinter looked at her, took the crates, and then went back up the mountain. The month after that, she brought salvaged weapon parts. When Fellwinter came to retrieve them, she watched him until he turned to go and then said, I know about you, you know. When he turned around to look at her, she lifted her chin. They call you Lord Fellwinter. I hear you've killed more warlords than Castor, over old technology, from the time before the collapse. Not a warlord, Fellwinter murmured, hiking onward. Arthi watched him and then called to his back. Just because you say that doesn't make it true. She came back the next month, and the next month, and the next. They spoke a little more every time, about life in the village, about what they imagined the time before the collapse was like, about the future. The 7th time he saw her, he lingered a little while. Together they looked out over the valley beyond the mountain. You could really help us, Arthi said softly. All of those Golden Age technologies you know so much about, we could live a totally different life. Fellwinter stood completely still, looking over the horizon. I can't, he said. She looked at him, trying to read his expression, and then looked sharply away. They stood in silence for a while. You know, she said, pointing down the mountain, warlords have been crashing through our village for ages, stepping on us, tearing up everything we plant, tearing down everything we build. I'm not a warlord, Fellwinter said quietly. Sure, she said, but you're like them. You get 1,000 second chances. You get to live in a big fortress on top of a mountain. What do you think it's like for us? What do you think it's like to have the sky constantly falling down on you? Fellwinter stared at her. Arthi crossed her arms. It must be nice, she said. Her expression softened, not for him, but for herself, for her people. To not have to worry. The next month, Arthi didn't come to meet him, nor the month after that. So, a couple of things real quick. I actually have some notes on this one. So, Arthi is actually a Hindu, I think it's a Hindu name. I know it's actually also a Hindu term. But it's a name that refers to the Hindu religious ritual of worship, which is a part of a puja, which we talked about back with Pujari. But so an Arthi is a process or a ritual in which light, which is usually from a flame, is offered to one or more deities. So her name is literally a callback to a ritual in which you offer light to a deity or deities, which I found that really interesting because her character here is showing Fellwinter the beauty of humanity. I also find it very interesting that it's, as with a lot of things with Bungie, it's the 7th visit, which is also her last visit. She makes the comment, "What do you think it's like to have the sky constantly falling down on you?" Now, it's clear here that she doesn't understand what she just said to him. But Fellwinter, what happens with Fellwinter here is a transformative moment, because what just happened there is Fellwinter just connected with humanity. All of humanity is constantly having the sky falling down on top of them. They're constantly being attacked, chased. They live in constant fear, which is exactly what he's doing. He is now able to empathize with someone. Before, the only Guardians in Risen that we had seen was Griffin. Griffin is, and he doesn't connect with Griffin at all. He doesn't understand Griffin's paradigms or anything that he wants to do. But Arthi, a human, an old human woman, is seeing the world through the eyes just like he is. And I think that's a really big deal for Fellwinter. I think that's why, and we'll talk about this in the next session, but that's why the very, very next thing is him abandoning his security and actually going out and looking for not weapons, but a very specific something to help humanity. He's not looking at it to help he doesn't even know the Iron Lords at that time, but he's not helping other warlords. He's actually doing this to help humanity, which kind of ties into, I believe, Green, you had talked about the story of Siddhartha Buddha, and how he took on he experienced the travesty of the death in the village, and then he was like, wait, hang on, this is life. What I've been living is not reality. It's something else. That's kind of what Fellwinter's going through right now, is that kind of transformation in his brain of this understanding of and Arthi, I love the two sides of this conversation that you get to see in this card, because Arthi doesn't know this. Arthi, and you can tell with her conclusion here, it's like she tells him it must be nice to not have to worry. And Fellwinter's sitting there going, are you insane? I'm having to worry. I'm paranoid because of this stuff. Now it also, we don't have confirmation that Arthi dies, but we do know that this is the last time that Arthi is seen by her. But I think the lesson here, and this is similar to, I made a comment when we were talking with the group about the Shax and Fellwinter fight. Arthi taught Fellwinter this connection to humanity, and Fellwinter in a way actually kind of passes this on to Shax as well. And it's this idea that again, going back to that Ghost Fragment XO3, the idea of Exos being cursed. It's here that Fellwinter kind of starts seeing that he's not alone in that curse. He's not alone in his fear, but he is capable of actually protecting the other people who are with him in that. It's not everyone is there on the same level. He's actually strong enough to carry and to shield those people below him, which is interesting given the parallel between him and Rasputin that we're going to see, because Fellwinter chooses a drastically different path than Rasputin does when they're presented with very similar situations on different scales, of course, but the situation arbitrarily is very, very similar. And the different choices that the two make are, to me, very interesting. Yes, and Dancing Veru is also giving me the Sanskrit meaning of Arthi is something that removes darkness. So again, something else that's very significant within Destiny.
I think when it comes to Arthi, in these moments, and it's something you've definitely you've talked about there. Arthi really is the catalyst for change for Fellwinter. Had Arthi not uttered that last line of the sky falling down and not having to worry, I don't think he would have made as much, or if any kind of connection that he did at that point. that it was such a pivotal moment, a pivotal couple of lines for him. And in regards to Arthur's fate, I think personally, I think she might have actually passed, or at least had moved on from where she was, because it says that it's 7 times, and on the 7th visit she left, and it kind of ties into that whole biblical and on the 7th day, God rested when he created the world, but it was also how many times did Felwinter die at the beginning? He died 7 times, and it specified 7 deaths. And we see this 7 come up again when he's speaking to Arthur. So it's very possible at that point that Arthur could just be fed up with him and just doesn't want to talk to him anymore. Or it could be that she in some way passes, which would lend even more emotional weight to the connection that he has and his drive to try and do something to help humanity at this point.
I like it.
And real quick, Dancing has a point. Well, actually, I want to call 2 things out. Black Flag with an FDR quote, which is an amazing quote. It's courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear, which is a great quote. And then also Dancing is making the point that he's thinking that sky falling down might generally be a trigger for Exos, with some of the other contextless lore tidbits that we have, like a couple of the ghost fragments. There's constantly when we know that an Exo is speaking and the mention of sky falling down, there does seem to be kind of a very heavy emotional response to it. And then Black Flag's talking about and with Felwinter, the sky is literally falling down every time he steps out in the open because of the war sets. So. Sorry.
Rasputin doesn't have very good aim then.
Well, Wei Ning would disagree with you, but...
How is it that Rasputin misses Felwinter over and over, but totally nails Wei Ning?
I have a theory on that, too.
Does it have to do with the fact she's a Titan?
No, it's basically, I don't think he's actually trying to hit him I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not he's actually trying to hit him.
Well, he does get him. He
does nick him a couple times. Yeah, it's like Black. Yeah, we'll talk about that one.
Maybe he just can't be all that accurate. Maybe he has just a range in which he can hit a subject in, but.
Yeah, maybe Felwinter is the one that he used as practice because Wei Ning came afterwards.
Or he needs an hour and a half to actually take aim at something. Just saying.
Aiming a war set is not something that takes 3 seconds. It takes 90 minutes to get everything properly aligned. And
look, you think it was bad for you guys. You think it was bad for you guys. I was up at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. I had work the next day. This was not fun for me.
Literal shots fired.
I want to go to sleep. Everyone on the Australian Destiny side of things was like, just let us go to sleep, please.
I know that Log was having a drinking party, essentially waiting for this thing to happen. Whenever he was streaming it, it's just, oh my goodness, yeah.
But interestingly enough, I reckon Rasputin, if he was Garden, would be a hunter main, because if you think about it, he destroys the hell out of Felwinter, a warlock. He destroys the hell out of Wei Ning, a Titan, but he's best mates with Anna Bray, who's a hunter. So Rasputin likes his hunters, that's all I'm saying.
Biased.
Yeah.
He's classist, it's fine.
He was made by hunters, but that's okay.
This is true.
You guys want to do the shout-outs for the intro session real quick?
Quick wrap-up?
Yeah.
So, Ice, could you give us another rundown of places where our guests could find you, to follow you, and keep up with all the content that you've got putting out? Good Lord, words.
Words, things, moments. Yeah, sure. So follow me on Twitter at the Ice Warrior 1. I wish I could change that, but yeah. The Icebro 209 on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. I actually just put up a video of the Felwinter's Live story, and I've actually
Nice.
just recently put up a video of the recap of the last 3 seasons of lore going into Season of Arrival. So go check it out.
Very nice. And we will get those for the show notes, absolutely, for you. All right. So next week, as far as my shout outs going on, we're going to do our initial thoughts on season 11. Though, if I had it my way, I might convince Blue to reschedule that. So the initial thoughts are actually closer to the beginning of the season when we release the episode. So you might be hearing this and it might be a moot point later on.
Nah.
Yeah.
What's with your
Anyway.
logic? Scheduling logic.
Scheduling logic. But
As we in Australia would say, yeah, nah.
Yeah. You know for sure. All right. Blue, shots for you.
I just wanted to say a big thanks to both ARF and Worthy D for the amazing feedback that we got from you guys. We really appreciate the words, and I promise Green will answer ARF's question.
What if the white worm familiar is related to the Ahamkara? There's like
all I know is that it started off with Green made me do it. So, oh, well. I'm like, what I read was not my fault.
just gonna shift that blame just as we started. Yeah.
Just whoop. But yeah, no, big thanks for the feedback. We always love hearing thoughts and questions and whatnot. But as always, thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
Oh, goodness. All right. So we could take a few minutes break, refill drinks, potty break, all the different things, and reconvene.
Sounds good to me. I'll be right back.
I'm going to go check on my child because it sounds like she just hurt herself.
Oh, no, that's not good.
All right. Chat. You guys are on it tonight. Let's see. Ideas become more rigid as they develop. Maybe night pens. Have a good night, hon. My goodness. My goodness. Oh, good. So, it is just us. This could be dangerous. I wonder what I shall do to you.
Well,
Evil
that's
Green.
not ominous at all.
I like playing evil. I did that lore reading with Trekian, where we read the web lore that dropped earlier this week with Zavathun and Nokris.
Yeah.
And I played Zavathun. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So much fun to play evil. But yes. You said you were recording videos. You're doing lore videos like for YouTube and everything, or?
Yeah, I did a Destiny's beginner's guide in under 30 minutes where I just cover the story of like pre Destiny 1 and then Destiny 1 leading into Destiny 2, just as a kind of like a beginner's guide, a jumping in point for people who hadn't played Destiny 2 and wanted to jump in and actually play the game but had no idea where to start. It gives an entry point for that. Then I did a video just telling the story of Felwinter and Felwinter's life and everything that we got the information for. And then I just recently finished up just a quick little 10-11 minute recap video of the major story elements of seasons 8, 9, and 10 leading into Season of Arrivals. So it's been fun.
I'm gonna ask Blue about a few things, but have you checked out the Lore Network at all?
Yeah.
So are you in the Lore Network? I don't think I have you on our list.
I don't know.
let me double check with Blue to make sure it's okay, because we're
Oh, of
always
course.
looking for people on there, and we can get you on that list of like the weekly lore roundup that Blue was talking about, where
Yeah, that'd be good.
your video would be on the same article essentially as Matt's and Bife's, as well as a bunch of other YouTubers that are doing lore videos. Wally, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones who are going. Sir Wallen is the big one besides Bife and Mylan, but yeah, that'd be cool to
Oh,
get you up there with them.
no, that'd be awesome.
Mm.
I'm always looking to connect more with people in the community, both content creators and just players in general. I'm hoping
Absolutely.
eventually I can work up to working with Mylan and Bife on a few things, and working with any other kind of creator in the community. I've made a point in each of my Destiny videos to include at least one piece of artwork from a Destiny artist, and I'm hoping I can continue to do that. So just kind of just highlight the artists and all the good work they do, and just work with more and more people in the Destiny community because it's fun. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. I like it. Yeah, because we like to have people be able to connect and just get other voices in there, because everybody tells the same story in some ways, but we all tell it differently. So the way
Yeah.
that Blue and I tell a story may not be for everyone, and it shouldn't be for everyone. Whereas the way you tell it might be a little easier, or a little bit more revealing in ways that we can't make. But yeah, how do you feel about this season so far?
I'm a little excited. I'm not gonna lie. The opening story mission was oh
Mm.
baby. That was a bit of a shock, especially because it was a forced mission. You open up and hey, you're straight in, which was
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see. I kind of lost my mind a little bit when we were thrown into Savathun's port, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I read the web law, and I just went, oh, god damn it! I knew that was too
Have
good to be
you
true.
have you been able to finish the quest line for this week then?
Yeah,
Because you get to, yeah, so you going back into the tree, into the cradle.
which
I
I'm
have
actually
seen,
really glad we get to see.
right. Anybody have any fucking clue in chat or you ice whether or not the 500 seconds actually relates to anything yet? I have not seen a single. I've searched that room
Mm.
up and down trying to find like a scannable or maybe a passageway. Nothing. I can't find a damn thing, and I've done that mission 4 or 5 times now.
The
It's
only thing I can
driving me
think of
crazy.
is it might be similar enough to the menagerie, where you do have that, like, it's like 300 seconds or something at the end. Obviously, there is lore there, but I think, and I could be wrong here, but Bungie might have started to realize, hey, we'd like to take shots of these awesome areas we don't get to access all the time. So you can use that time to create the right kind of photo and all
That's
screenshots and
true.
whatnot. It could very well be like that. Um,
Yeah.
I am kind of hoping, I am really kind of hoping that it's never going to happen. But this is again a reason why Bungie should hire me, because they have great ideas. Christmas time, you
Mm-hmm.
still that is still there at Christmas time, and you get to see that lit up with Christmas lights instead of what it is at the moment. It is
So I
just
have a
constantly just fairy lights and mistletoe and just all the
that would
Christmas
be
stuff.
pretty.
You just
I
see Eva at the
do.
bottom going, "Welcome, Guardian." Uh,
Mm-hmm. I do have a theory though that tree is it has a bit more of a purpose than just being
mm,
pretty in the center of the cradle. What is a cradle for? Cradle's for housing a child or a baby. What if the traveler is birthed from the tree that's in the center of the cradle? The
interesting.
next traveler. Mm-hmm.
As a
There's
way
not
to
really
keep
a whole.
constantly reinventing itself. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
the Traveler does look like it is starting to reform, and all the artwork we see for it, like at the moment, it's pretty spread out. If you go out and have a look at the directory map, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
broken up. But when you see the shot for the next expansion, it seems like it's more closed up. And then when you finally see the artwork for Lightfall, it seems like that is completely whole Traveler at that point.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's something interesting going on with that. I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but knowing Bungie, it probably is.
The last place the Traveler touched, it maybe planted a seed, or it planted the seed, but it actually wasn't able to propagate the seed until the pyramids came. Oh.
Oh man, there's so much. There's so much.
Yeah.
Oh
It-
my.
Oh my, she said
Oh
propagate.
my.
Oh goodness. All right, now since you guys have gone and done your thing, I'm gonna go do my thing real quick, and I'll be right back.
So, I was being told about the Law Network.
Yes. Let me.
Yes, and possibly connecting with the
Yeah.
Law
Let
Network.
me
in some way.
get. I have links for that somewhere. It's in a different place than where I'm sitting for the show notes. Where'd it go? No, that's what I want. Yeah, get this. There you go. Yeah, so basically, and then once we get all that filled out, we'll get you added to everything, and that way we'll get you into the Discord. And then what we do, we do what we started doing is the weekly lore roundup, which is basically where we do all the different content that has gone out from the members of the network for that past week. We basically collated into a single blog post over on the site, and then kind of use it to kind of distribute among everyone. And then what we've been doing is everyone then takes that post and then kind of shares it with their own communities, and then it kind of like cross pollinates
Spreads.
everyone's community with each other, with the idea of like, you know, bringing all that stuff together, which I'm sure Green has done a much better job explaining than I have, because she does that.
You've both done good jobs with that. You definitely have. I was saying before to Green, I really want to I'm making a priority of working with as many different people within the Destiny community as I can, both content creator wise and just general players wherever I can. On a regular occasion, whenever I can, I run people through like if there's new dungeons or secret missions or anything like that. Every lore video or every Destiny video, just in general, that I put out, I'm going to be making sure I include at least one piece of art from a Destiny community artist. I've worked with Moose Mum. I've worked with who was it? Cobb and Emily Megan so far. All great artists, and they do amazing work. But yeah, just making a priority to work with as many people as I can, because it's good to network and good to get out there and get to know as many people as possible.
Yeah, and on the artist side, definitely reach out to I always
Salty
blank.
Cat.
Yes, thank you.
Howard.
He's a awesome guy, but he also helped, or he is one of the founders or the founder. I can never remember if he was he is
the primary founder,
founder.
but he is the kind of like you and I, kind of has a co-host in that respect. He runs a Destiny community artist and does a lot when it comes to networking there. So he can get you hooked up with a lot of different artists who are legit artists and not just scams stealing from other people's art and then placing it as their own, which that still unfortunately happens. But
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, Howard's a good guy.
Yeah, I like him. He
Awesome.
cracks me up.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then yeah.
Yeah.
I can't.
Interesting question came up in chat here about the seed that Osiris has and how he is told to plant it.
It
It's
theoretically
possible.
could be, but it
Yeah,
also
could be.
could be something that was already there. We
I
don't
kind of
know if
feel like it
Osiris
was.
went to Io.
Mm.
Well, we do know that Asher makes his way through the caverns too. Granted, I think he, for his date with Eris, which I find to be slightly disturbing because
Oh,
it's
What?
the
I
worst
loved
pickup
it.
line.
I
It's
loved it.
cute, but he has two glasses. It specifically calls out he has two glasses, and he asks her if she wants help with anything. And she says, "No, I think I've got it handled," essentially. And he walks away sad, just leaving one of the glasses for her. I'm
Well,
like,
and he asked her
"Oh,
twice
poor."
too. She answered him, and he's like, "No, do you need any help with anything?" And she's like, "Nope."
oh. I think it is like it could easily be a case of Eris being way too into her work, which let's be real here, she is always going to be like that. She always has been, but
Mhm.
there is this very sweet friendship they have, and it's a very close friendship because Eris
Asher's
only
been
really
friend
talks to
zoned.
Asher. Like, yeah, well, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, he kind of has
Yeah.
been a bit friend zoned,
Because
unfortunately.
she
For
refers
him.
to him as cousin Asher. Like
Well, they're both
she sees him.
awoken.
She sees him. No. I know, but she sees him like as it's
Familial.
family. Like it's not like she's
Mhm.
not like
You know, Eris is just the hot girl. Like, she's the hot goth girl this
three
season
eyes. I
that
mean, three
everybody
eyes.
wants to
Yeah.
get with because not only is Asher after her, but Drifter. Some of the
Moon
voice lines.
dust.
Oh my
Three
god.
eyes and maybe three of something else too. Oh god.
There's a few, like, Eris basically tells Drifter she's gonna kill him at the beginning of the dungeon, and one of the voice lines options that you get. Like, she's like, "I will fucking wreck you," kind of thing. And it's like, well, shit, Morla.
That
And Morla just delivers it so straight.
oh, it's like see that's the thing. That is the worst thing to say to the Drifter if you don't want him interested in you, because Drifter's going to be like, "I want some of that. I want
Mhm.
some of that ass." I'm just going to like go straight after it. That's exactly what the Drifter would be into, because he
Oh.
actually shows that in I can't remember what exact lore entry it is, but when he's in his bar and Aphrodite
Oh
comes
yeah,
in and then she
Aphrodite.
just starts racking and he's like, "Well, wanna dance?" Like he's into that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
and then
He
and
likes
then it
being
like
turned down.
when it works, he's like, I don't know what to do. That never works.
Yeah, put him
Yeah.
in front of a strong woman, especially one that has ties to the darkness, and that is him, hands down.
You want to see me trigger chat real quick
Oh,
with
go for it.
the Eris and Drifter? I triggered a lot of the lore people in the lore community. Anon Pig was very grossed out. So was Log Power Slave. Drifter has a thing for eating, correct?
Oh,
Eris wears hive armor. So when Drifter looks at
oh,
Eris, does he see beef jerky like edible underwear or edible lingerie?
Oh, I remember this question.
oh, right. I actually saw that. Oh, that's amazing.
Chat just broke. No.
Literally, it's like, "Hey, I'm dead again." It's like, no, like that is the best name you could have for that comment. That's perfect.
Why are you like
Why am I
this?
like
Just, just
I
Michael
think I
Scott's
need
comments
to
like,
go
"Why
now.
are you like this?"
Oh, Veru. You guys know you
Oh,
love me.
I like that. I like the idea of
Two.
it. I mean, don't kink shame. That's a Cole question. Yeah, you're not wrong. That is a Cole question.
That is a cool
Oh,
question.
Oh.
I like the idea of like there's this love triangle between the Drifter Eris and
Asher.
Asher, and Asher's just like off in his own. It's like, screw it. I'm just gonna
When
go dive into my books, and just
when did Asher
uh,
become like the good kid, like the good guy that the girl eventually ignores? You know that trope that goes on all the time. When did he
hmm.
become the nice guy?
I
This
think
is
when the
why you
drifter just
buy.
end up coming on the scene, he's like, gluten-free underwear.
I won't give any
No
context.
context. I mean, that's probably a good thing.
Uh,
Oh, I'll tell you a story regarding that. Okay, and it's an innocent story. It's not anything too bad. I was in an old video store once back when those were still a thing, and they had a bit of like an adult section for. Weirdly enough, they just had like adult things like edible underwear sitting up on one of the shelves.
sure.
And
As you do.
I'm a kid. I didn't know any better. It's like, oh, there's some lollies up there. Awesome. Hey, mum, can I have some? I literally grabbed it. Can I have this? And it's just this edible thong, and she was horrified. She is just.
Oh my goodness.
Cashier started cracking himself laughing. He couldn't handle it.
Okay. I have a question for you, and it's purely because I feel like you would take this question very, very comically. I watched a comedian the other day by the name of Hannah, I want to say Gadsby was her last name.
Anna Gatsby, yeah.
Yeah, so she talks about how in Australia the word fanny means something totally different than it does for the people in the US.
Yes.
Is that true? Is
Yep.
fanny?
Yep.
Oh my god. So when we're
Yep.
calling it a fanny pack, you guys are
Uh-huh.
like, you guys are disgusting.
Well, if you think about it, that is kind of where you're wearing it.
This is true.
And you
This is very, very true.
often put a lot of
But it's
things into it.
British friends stop. Dancing beside British friends, no. Like, there is. Look, there's a particular word that we love using over here, regarding that particular piece of anatomy, and it starts with the letter C, and it's also a terminology of both endearment, mostly, and also of not so
Cunt.
much endearment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to. I know there's a lot of people that don't like the use of that term, especially over in America, and just wanted to make sure you guys are okay with that.
Hey, I'm dead again. Huh.
But yeah.
I seem to have gotten lost and found Cole's stream again.
Hi, Orchid.
Oh, hey, Orchid. What did I wave? What the? Every time I'm doing this, I just like, oh, hey,
It's
guys.
okay.
Oh, wait.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're used to streaming.
That's true. That's very true. Oh, she's come in at the right time.
Yes, she does. All right, so I'll be in my 9th month.
Breathing.
Oh my goodness.
Context.
Yes.
Oh. I kind of hope she didn't come in at the moment when I'm telling everybody about the time that I asked my mum for edible underwear. Which, again, context.
Yeah. The stories are nice. The stories are fun. I know exactly when to show up. She's a wizard, Harry. We should start up.
The moon senses were tingling. Spider creep, spider creep.
Yep. We all were waiting for her to get Spider-Man powers, but
You said something creepy, or like when something creepy or lewd is happening, she's like, "Ooh, gotta be in on
My
this."
lewd senses were tingling. Yeah, yeah. Orchid's lewd senses are never shut off. She's like sonar. She's a bat for him. And Cam has Cole's emote, the lewd emote. Did you see this?
no.
It's a wet sign. It says lewd.
It's
one of Issacole's emotes.
Oh, no.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is one of the best emotes I have seen in a while.
Uh-huh. It is awesome.
It's the best. Okay. go ahead and get started on the next one.
Do we need to take a brief?
Before we start,
Oh.
on this one, I have you down ice for the Search and the Iron Lord, because I switched all the things, because...
The Search and the Iron Lord, yep. I can do that.
Do you want me to take Golem? Because it's a lot of code.
Sure. I can, if you don't mind me doing the story.
Yeah, that's fine.
The Siddhartha story. Cool. I'll switch Discovery and Golem with you then.
Because I have a bit on Siddhartha, because it's actually got some really cool tidbits in the code structure.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that down below and went, not it.
I mean, look, you're not entirely wrong. It took me so many takes to record that. I kept screwing up the lines so often. I'm like, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I just want to go to sleep.
I love reading lore cards and recording lore cards, but whenever there's a fucking Rasputin one, I'm like, I'm not saying all these fucking numbers. I don't want --6543065 feet. Fuck off, Rasputin.
Yeah, no, I feel ya. So what ones did you want me to do again?
It would be the Search, which would be the first one, and the Iron Lord once we get into the actual episode.
Alrighty.
All right, Blue, you ready?
Yep. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on June 12th, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the lore book, The Liar. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who've signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the frantically typing in chat, Green-Eyed Music Lover.
And last but definitely not the least, in the hot seat as guest or I guess the cool seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend, the Ice Warrior. Ice Warrior, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty chill.
But
He
pun.
He started it.
Yeah, I know. Dad jokes abound.
Worry. I'm a dad. I'm used to it. I'm a master when it comes to puns. So.
It's Stasis Warrior, according to Dancing Guru.
Excuse me. It's Stasis Warrior.
You could claim that name. I bet that name's available.
To be honest, it doesn't sound too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, when it comes to this kind of thing, I guess you could say you definitely wouldn't be calling me a liar.
Jokes. We got some.
Jokes.
I didn't want to lord that over you.
You know, I actually used that the other day as a stream title and pissed off half of the internet. So
Yeah. This is gonna be fun.
when Twitter rolls its eyes at you, you're like, "Hey, now, why is it okay when everybody else does it?"
Oh, I've done it to Log quite a few times already. He kind of knows whenever I'm going to comment on any of his stuff, it's gonna be pun related.
I like it. Pino would be proud too.
Well, enough chatter. Let's jump into it. I think we have 6 entries for this session, right? We're gonna close out the lore book, and we'll start with The Search. Ice Warrior, do you want to grab that one and?
Certainly. We'll begin. The Search. Don't understand what you hope to get out of this, Fellspring said stiffly, as Fel went to search the Seraph bunker. Golden Age weapons of every shape and size lined the walls. Some of them were clearly non-functional from age and disuse. Others looked pristine, save for the dust. If anything, she went on, you're just putting us back on his radar. When we stayed on the mountain, he stopped bothering us. When Felwinter didn't reply, Fellspring bunched her shell and asked, more pointedly, is this really because of what she said? Felwinter picked up one of the weapons, a massive grenade launcher. Who? Fellspring did an incredulous spin. Who? Who? Felwinter glanced at her, then glanced back at the grenade launcher. He held it up as if he were aiming at the wall, and then set it aside, and went to pick up a scout rifle, examining its scope. For a while, Fellspring just watched him. Eventually, she flew to his side again, and said, this isn't what they need, you know. When he paused to look at her, she went on, weapons! There's enough of that out there already. His expression remained uncomprehending, and Fellspring sighed. The Golden Age was a time of peace and prosperity. Right, Felwinter said. They built things, they didn't tear them down. At his continued silence, Fellspring floated around to his other side. Think about it. It was the greatest expansion in humanity's history. Cities sprung up like weeds, impressive cities. It all happened really fast. She paused. Huh. Actually, I have no idea how they did that. Felwinter stared at the scout rifle in his hands. Labour frames? Sure, but even that wouldn't have been enough. And it wouldn't have helped them terraform Titan on their own. They must have had some kind of tech, something to help them build. Felwinter nodded and set down the scout rifle. So where is that technology? Fellspring floated over to one of the computer terminals, inspecting the glowing controls. That's what I'm wondering too. It's really good to see here that Fellwinter at this point, he's left the mountain, he's off, he's in search of something that can help humanity, something he can actually do after his conversation with Arthur. And it does a really good job here of slowly just trickling in a setup for Siva, which is just brilliant. I love it. It's yeah.
Yeah. Blue, did you have anything else on this one? I think this one's fairly straightforward.
Yeah,
as
I
to
mean,
what's happening.
the biggest thing for here is just, again, the connection to, again, reiterating that Arthy's message and lesson for Felwinter was so powerful that it actually galvanized him to leave the mountain. You know, he had done all this stuff to find his way to I think it's Vostok, basically. But, like, he had gotten that mountain finally, and he was, like, completely secure, completely happy at the top. And then she makes that one question, and it's like an earworm in him. You know, it's there. I also love Fellspring. Who? She's like, really? We're going to play that game? But no, that was pretty much the big thing for me for this one. That, and also the hook is getting set. That will come back.
Just a bit. Blue,
It's
are you
interesting
ready
though. Like, I was just going to say, just before we continue, ghosts have this rhetoric. They constantly are going, "Yep, okay, Golden Age was great, humanity's awesome, travel was great, you know, yada yada yada," and then, oh, I actually don't know why they're great. I don't know how or why they did the things they did. I just know, oh, the Golden Age is awesome. And then they just don't know anything else about that at that point. And he kind of just goes, oh, okay. Well, what can we find out about this? What can we do about this? I just found that really interesting.
I
It's
agree.
It's like someone who's been spoon-fed propaganda is finally waking up and being like, but wait, hang on.
Well, I mean,
why do
like
we all get size 8 shoes?
Ghost, right? But Ghost has always been this kind of carrier of information that is so wish-washed down that you have actually no proof of what they're saying. You just have this mantra said over and over until you believe it. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't understand why. And then the other thing is the speakers also have those lines that kind of filter in. Granted, some of the speakers were told it by ghosts, but some of them were definitely fed that from just the traveler visions and everything. All right. Blue, are you ready for Siddhartha and the code?
Yeah, now do you want me to read the code itself, or do you want me to just...
I want you to do it however you want to do it, because I have no idea how I would read this. I do not.
In a robot voice. Do it in a robot voice.
Do I have my...
I mean, he has that ability with we have the technology.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Is this acceptable?
Oh, Lord.
Yes. Do it. Do it. Put the accent on. This is going to be great.
This is a subtle asset imperative. No human review. No AI.com review. Secure autark. Initiate Siddhartha Gautama. Upload at DSC 342 to assess integrity of moral structures. Stand by for criteria. Under passage, obsolete sidereal. If Nanobi Sonder is ivory. If Hammurabi is active and passes human review under context Turing. If Duro Dahana is in failure and passes AI.com review under context IDES. Set spectrum certification to Smargden. Else, stand by for contingent action order. Set spectrum certification to Amaranthine. Initiate human review unless tactical morality is built at midnight. Experience is the teacher of all things. Siddhartha Gautama detected in sector OR41S. Reactivation conditions unknown. Siddhartha Gautama identified with O energy signature. Automated remote asset seizure failed. Automated remote injection of wetware payload Helminth failed. Automated remote injection of hardware payload Catacomb failed. I am invoking Absalom Knife. Upon execution, all affected assets resume long hold at midnight exigent. And weep the more, because I weep in vain.
All right. So, which is the first one of the directives that you want to jump into?
So, I guess the big first thing is the first. So there's actually two things here. There's two command prompts. There is the first one, which is the long number, but it ends with B120. This is an immediate action order from a golem interrogative. So basically, what is going on here, and this is actually, we find out a line of code that was actually run during the Golden Age. And what's really going on here is that it is initiating a asset that is known as the Siddhartha Golem to basically go in and collect and review the moral imperatives and moral structures of the Warmind, Rasputin. The analysis of the moral structures is given basically 4 if-then statements. And what's going on here is it says under passage, obsolete sidereal. It has if. And so then if all these are true, it says set certification to a word that says Smargden. Smargden is actually a term that means the color of emeralds. So it's basically setting it to green. Another one that's really quick is amaranthine is a word for, it's basically red. Let me get the actual definition for you guys. Amaranthine is of or like the amaranth, which is a flower. It's unfading, everlasting, of purplish red color. So it's basically red status, green status, pass, fail. Which is very common with if-then statements. It's a binary binary logic. So if Nanobi Sonder, which I love the word Sonder, I'm going to come back to it in just a second, if that is set to Ivory, then go and check if Hammurabi is active and passes human review under context Turing. Now, the important part here is that this is all being done by the Siddhartha Golem, which is not a human. However, the call out to Turing goes back to a Turing test, which is when you have an AI that can pass as a human. So what this is basically, what I'm understanding this to say, is that the Siddhartha Golem is responsible for reviewing the moral structures. And as far as it can tell, with the fact that it is passing a Turing test, it is basically in place of a human reviewing the Hammurabi code. So basically the golem is doing a self-analysis of it. Duryodhana is in failure and passes AI com review. So this is something that will pass Rasputin's review. Duryodhana is a major antagonist in the Hindu epic Mahabharata, and is the eldest of the, I don't even know how to pronounce this word, I'm going to try, Karanas, which are basically a large group of individuals who basically were the antagonist of the entire epic. So if it passes that, or if it's in failure and it passes the review under context IDES, then if all three of those if statements say yes, set the spectrum certification to green. So basically, okay, we're good. However, if any of these three do not pass, you need to, he says, stand by for contingent action order, which is set the spectrum certification to red and initiate human review, unless tactical morality is built at midnight. So this is all going on during the Golden Age, and so Rasputin has not yet enacted midnight exigent. So anytime any of these things would have failed, it would have flagged, it basically would have come up and it would have flagged it and said, hey, there needs to be a human review on this decision or this situation. So what happens, what is going on here is that you see that the Siddhartha Golem is initiated prior to the collapse. And that's important for something that I'm going to bring up later. But he also shuts it down. Like he's basically saying, okay, stop, which is the common end command prompt for Rasputin's code. So then the next part, which is, so again, remember there's two code structures here. The next part is what's referred to as the coronary mirror shear. A coronary is the group of arteries that is around and supplies the heart with blood. A mirror shearer is basically a cutting instrument. A lot of times you'll see hair shears. They are referred to as mirror shears because from the best I can tell, it's because of the aesthetics of them, but it's also because they are so finely aligned with each other that they can shear those hairs. So coronary mirror shear is basically something has cut the artery that's initiating this entire thing. So and then you go down and you say AI com Rasputin assets force con imperative. So something is going on with an asset. It's imperative. It's an immediate action order. So this is something that, again, something's fired off. This is a red flag. It needs to be addressed immediately. It goes on to say Siddhartha Golem detected in sector OR41S. Now, we don't really know where OR41S is, or at least I don't know off the top of my head. But the big thing here is that he is detecting the Golem's action or activity. He has not initiated the Golem. So he's responding with, okay, and remember, the Golem is really the heart of Rasputin's self-analysis of his moral confines. So he's acknowledging that there has been something that has literally hacked one of his biggest assurances that he is doing the right thing. He goes on to say reactivation conditions unknown, and then he notes that the Golem is identified with O, which is code in Rasputin for the traveler or light. O energy signature. So then he's like, oh, okay, so it's reactivated. It's been reactivated by the light. He's like, okay. Automated remote asset seizure. So basically he's doing a preliminary, that's mine, please give me back. And it fails. So then he goes, okay, automated remote injection of wetware payload. So basically he is installing some software. A helminth is a very small worm. So basically it's a Trojan horse. He is trying to hack back into his asset that has been stolen, and it fails. So then he's like, okay, fine. Automated remote injection of hardware payload, Catacomb. And Catacomb, as many people probably are familiar with, is a underground. Basically, it's a cemetery that is underground. One of the big things with catacombs is they have galleries where you can actually see the deceased and the buried. But so basically, it's what you're seeing here is an escalation of his responses to having this golem stolen from his experience, stolen from him. At the end of it, he invokes Absalom Knife. Okay, so the big thing here is Absalom. Knife is, I mean, everyone kind of knows what a knife is. I'm not going to pretend like you don't know what knife is. But Absalom is the third son of David from within the Judaic tradition and the Bible. And the big thing with Absalom is, so Absalom, the name means father of peace. He was the third son of David who rebelled against his father. And the big thing with Absalom was he was very similar to what Green will probably talk about with Siddhartha. He was a character that didn't want for anything. He was regarded as the most handsome man in the land. He really kind of had everything at his fingertips. And basically, it was through that pride he rebelled against his father. And even in his rebellion, his David kind of was like, I don't want harm to fall to him. Well, what happens is through a series of misfortunate events, Absalom is actually killed in the forest during a battle. And he's basically killed by a general, if I remember correctly. He is run through by a spear while he gets trapped in a tree. It's a really interesting story, but the big thing is that Absalom is the beloved son of a king who betrays that king, and because of that ultimately leads to his death. So when you see Absalom Knife, upon execution, all affected assets resume long hold. What he is saying is, okay, I have tried all the things that I can try to bring him back into the fold. They have failed. We now have to eliminate the threat that this rogue golem is presenting to us. Because again, remember, the Siddhartha golem is the heart of Rasputin as far as the assurance that he is following his moral imperatives. If that gets compromised, then basically Rasputin doesn't know if he's actually following his moral imperatives, and he can be manipulated because he doesn't have that. So he is removing the threat from the field, which is where we get the first half of this book, where you see Fellwinter being chased all the time. That's what's happening, and that's where, again, you get the quote, and weep the more because I weep in vain. Rasputin doesn't want to do this. He actually has tried multiple times to bring the golem, which we will later find, or the next card will actually get confirmation, is Fellwinter, to bring him back in. But because of the resurrection process with the ghost and with the light, he's been not able to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so should I wait to talk about the Siddhartha story? I mean, we kind of went over it a couple weeks ago in the Fellwinter's Lie, but for anybody who may not necessarily have listened to that one, Siddhartha Gautama is the most, not necessarily most popular, but probably the more well-known in the West, at least, of the stories of the Buddha. And he was a prince who basically was never exposed to any sort of pain or anything like that. And he made his way down to a marketplace type situation and saw pain and death and discomfort for the first time ever in the image of an old man. Never even saw age. And it completely changed his life. He decided that he would go amongst the people and he'd forsake all of his princely abilities and wealth and everything going on with that, and just go down into the people, which is what we see with Fellwinter himself. Fellwinter is sent down amongst the people, which I think is actually this next card, where we're going to talk about it in the Discovery. Ice, did you have anything on the Siddhartha Gautama or Siddhartha Golem card before I go ahead and read the Discovery?
Not really too much. I mean, he really did do a really good job of covering all that. It's just a really interesting, lore card, and most of Rasputin's are, but they can, for the uninitiated, they can be just really hard to read. As long as you know the tricks to reading his lore cards, they end up having some of the most interesting parts of his story, and just as what was happening in the Golden and Dark Ages in general. So I like it.
Absolutely.
I do have one thing real quick. Big shout out to Black Flag. OR is Old Russia. So thank you for that. And then Dancing Veru actually also has a point. There is a jump ship lore tab for Unsecured Outcry that mentions a Kalki golem. Kalkai golem. So this is not the only golem that we have seen referenced in the lore, which is a whole different tangent that I'm not going to go down.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Okay. So the Discovery. For weeks, Fellwinter and Fellspring search out Seraph bunkers trying to find remnants of the technology that built a Golden Age utopia. One night, they camped in a Seraph bunker and spent hours poring over transcripts of old code. "This is weird," Fellspring said, and projected a display of a long string of code. "Look, in the Golden Age, Rasputin executes a protocol called Siddhartha Golem. No idea what it is. Some kind of knowledge gathering? It gathers a bunch of transcripts, conversations with humans, recordings of music, a huge database of literature." She whirred, and the projection flipped through thousands of words of code, then stopped again. Here, early Dark Age, a submind of an old Russia says Siddhartha Golem is active and gone rogue. Her voice dropped. "Around the time I found you." Fellwinter studied the code. It was almost like sight reading. Not quite effortless, but like a native tongue he'd forgotten. "But what is Siddhartha Golem?" he murmured. Fellspring zipped back and forth through the code again at a nervous, stuttering pace, then stopped it. Then scrolled through the code again, stopped, scrolled again, stopped. "Wait." Her voice quivered just a little. "See that? This is the first time Siddhartha Golem is mentioned. She paused, then it went on, quieter. "It says, initiate Siddhartha Golem, upload at DSC 342, a beat. DSC, Fellwinter." Fellwinter was silent, thinking, uncomprehending. "DSC?" he asked quietly. "Deepstone Crypt." She was almost whispering now. Siddhartha Golem was an exo. Fellwinter looked down at himself, at his hands. He turned them over, studying the worn metal of his palms. The silence filled the bunker, nearly to bursting. To Fellwinter, it felt like years until either of them spoke again. The whole time, Fellspring watched him, frozen in air. "He's you," she whispered. I love some of the things that we get out of this card. I love how we get confirmation of Deepstone Crypt having the upload happen at the Deepstone Crypt, or within the Deepstone Crypt, possibly, if it's not a location, which I'm more on the fence that it's a location now that we have Europa, but or at least a protocol. And then we actually get a confirmation that the name that the ghost gives him is actually the name that is given to him prior to his initial death, which is absolutely fascinating to me that the ghost is able to pull that information out. It makes you wonder if our various characters throughout the game were actually named that in their primary lives before they died.
Well, so real quick on that one, I read that a little bit differently. Again, this reminds me of our conversation with Forrest, but I actually read that as her saying DSC Fellwinter, like kind of like, like like a prompting, like, hey, doesn't that, don't you know what that means?
But
because
maybe.
And the only reason I kind of read that is because in Winter's Guile, Fellwinter remembers Deepstone Crypt processing. Like he makes a comment because he can't remember anything, and he's like, "Did something go wrong with the Deepstone Crypt processing?" And so I think
I remember that.
My connection there was like, she's like, "Yeah, DSC, get it?" And he's like, "I don't like Deepstone Crypt," and he's like, and that's where like because then he's like looking at his hands, and he's like, yeah. That's how I read it. I didn't actually read it. I think I can see it as you said it. DSC Fellwinter.
Whether or not it's just part of the actual designation, because it's DSC 342 is the designation.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a
Very
nickname.
well be like him, like his designation as DSC 342, but that could also be a reference to maybe it's an outpost of the Deepstone Crypt, possibly having something to do with that. I don't know. But when it comes to his name, I'm more inclined to go with how Blue said it. It was just Deepstone Crypt, Fellwinter, because he does state that he can't remember his name, but the name that he gets given doesn't feel like his. And not just in the beginning part one, but Winter's Guile. Is it in Winter's Guile?
Yeah, it's in Winter's Guile. He's like, that's not my name. And she's like, no, but you're going to say it is, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can absolutely see that.
But even that, like Winter's Guile seems a bit off given what we know now, because the ghost is like, well, you need to tell people it's your name, but effectively saying you can't tell people your real name. And it almost seems like the ghost actually knows at that point. But then obviously we find out later on. So, yeah.
Blue. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, that's really my big thing was the code structure. It just reading, like getting a chance to dig into that a little bit earlier today. I was sitting there and I was like, this actually puts a lot more context into what was going on with Rasputin and Fellwinter. Because if you look at it, I mean, Fellwinter basically, I think Dino was saying this earlier in chat, but it's basically like, he's got the keys to the kingdom. Like this is something that Rasputin can't have him just running around, because it's basically he has the capacity to manipulate or even potentially shut down Rasputin. And that's a threat that just, Warmind's not going to let loose. So it kind of like, but you also see, the other thing that I really like about it is like you see the escalation of his attempts. Like he doesn't just immediately, it's easy to say, oh, he just immediately jumps to throwing war sets at him, because we see it from Fellwinter's perspective, and that's kind of what happens. But then when we see it from Rasputin's thing, we see he's like, okay, I need that back. No, I really need that back. No, like I need that. Like he tries like 3 or 4 times to be like, that's not going to work. Like we need you to come back. And then it's finally when all of those fail, he's like, all right, well, and then, that's the quote, I weep in vain. He's like, there's no other option at this point for him. He has to eliminate that threat.
I have a question for both of you guys, and this is just a random thought game. The fact that Fellwinter was sent out to gather all the different information, conversations, music, literature. Would Anna know Fellwinter in the Golden Age? As Anna Bray before the Guardian?
Yeah, because I think I kind of took it as he was one of the
Echoes.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, ish. Ish is my qualifier there, I would say that he would be, again, the thing that I keep coming back to with Fellwinter is that if all this is accurate, Fellwinter is confirmation that exos can exist without being digitized humans. Because Fellwinter does not come from a human. He comes from an
Well,
AI.
Right, but the thing that I wonder is if the exo body was just the shell, or if there was a human consciousness in there to help sustain the AI itself emerging.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
even
It,
more
it definitely, it
terrifying, to be
definitely.
honest.
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It definitely lends towards either option there. There very well could be either option. I mean, when Rasputin is talking about a human review, it could very well be the human consciousness inside the exo body that houses Rasputin's, well, a subset of Rasputin's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think would probably be just as interesting as having a version of Rasputin having agency the way that Fellwinter does.
Oh my goodness, Black Flag. God, I hope not.
Falcon Brave. Oh, but
No,
it's interesting that they
I
might
mean,
well know each other.
I totally could see pre Fellwinter, the Golem. I totally see the Golem probably having been known to the Golden Age equivalent of Anna, the Bray family. I could see that totally. I mean, it's almost like you could also see him as a potential medium through which they interacted. I mean, for all we know, the
Right.
Siddhartha Golem could be how Anna Bray taught Rasputin that stuff.
That's what I'm thinking. That
Uh,
he was the one who gathered the information and the
and then
conversations for
processed it. Yeah.
Anna and then processed it
Yeah.
for Rasputin. Was able to humanize him, which is probably why Rasputin has more of those human-like aspects than anything else. It's Fellwinter helped give him that.
Well, Anna does speak about well, it does say in the web lore that she has been going around and trying to hunt down Clovis Bray's atlas, and she speaks about having her own diary and whatnot. It'd be interesting to see if she had mentioned or remembered anything regarding Fellwinter, regarding the Siddhartha Golem, or really any of the others as well, because of her intense involvement with Rasputin, it would be interesting. She doesn't
Mhm.
state it anywhere that she knows him or knows of
Mhm.
him, but maybe she does.
I think we should actually move into the meeting of the Iron Lords.
Ooh.
Would you like to take that on, Ice?
I would be more than happy to.
Thank you.
The Iron Lord. He wants to join us, Timur said to Radagast. Fellwinter stood next to him, silent, unreadable. Unlike other Exos Radagast had seen, he didn't seem to have any emotion mods beyond the factory setting defaults. It was unnerving. Radagast tipped his chin to Fellwinter. Timur says you have an interest in the Golden Age. In the war mind, Timur said. Rasputin. Fellwinter said nothing. What brought you to us? Radagast asked. Fellwinter glanced at Timur, and then back at Radagast. Your friend here told me about the nanotech you're looking for. Siva. He paused. It sounds too good to be true, but I want to help you find it. Radagast studied him, and then finally nodded. Any civilians on your mountain? A little settlement at the bottom. We think the mountain would make a good place for our base of operations. Funny, Fellwinter said, without any trace of humour. I said the same thing to myself years ago. Radagast snorted. So, would you give up the peat for the cause? If I do do my people get the protection of the Iron Lords? Tamur slaps Fellwinter on the back, a giant hand hitting an immovable object, and Radagast smiled. Just a little. Let me take you to Saladin, he said. He'll tell you about the city. We don't really get, in most of the other parts of the lore, we don't really get what it would have been like to have an introduction with the Iron Lords like this, to be inducted into the Iron Lords. We know that there is the main group, and then there are more the outliers going on, but we don't really get that chance before now to see this happen, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see the back and forth between Tamur, Radagast, and Fellwinter. Fellwinter at this point is obviously he's unsure about the Iron Lords, but you can already see that he sees the potential that they have, and he wants the protection for his people, or what has eventually at this point become his people, to almost live up to the call to action that Arthur gave him at this point. And he's known about Siva. He wants to find what Siva is, what Siva does, and he knows that the Iron Lords are his best bet to doing that. He's using them in that aspect as much as getting the protection for his people and aligning himself to a cause that he, as time goes on, he definitely feels more and more strongly for. But at this point, he wants the protection for his people, and he wants to use their resources to find Siva to help humanity as a whole.
Yeah, I definitely think it's more of, it starts out as I'm going to use this as a way to protect my people, and then it turns into, well, I can use this to help give me the ability to go further and find more of these bunkers and use their resources as well. It's definitely a give and take, even though the Iron Lords don't necessarily know what all they're giving in that respect. Like, they know that they're helping him find it, but they don't know why or anything like that, I don't think. Just the concept of it. Okay. Blue, do you have anything on the Iron Lords card?
No.
Okay. So, the lure. Fellwinter and Fellspring did most of their searching alone. It was easier that way. Better that the others didn't see how the Seraph bunkers reacted to him. Better for everyone. In a bunker on the outskirts of the Cosmodrome in old Russia, Fellwinter browsed through maps of old, deactivated Golden Age facilities, looking for anywhere that might have housed Siva or Siva-related research. At the same time, Fellspring decrypted and searched old command records for signs of Siva. By now, they moved like clockwork. It was almost unconscious. Hey, Fellwinter said, got anything on Site 6? Give me the coordinates, Fellspring said. I'll look. After a moment, she displayed a section of code for Fellwinter to see. Research Center, she said. There was a note of hope in her voice. Containment facility for something called Amphion Lyre? Do you think? I feel pretty damn sure, Fellwinter said quietly. They looked at the screen on the console, where a little red light blinked on a map next to the words Site 6. Come on, Fellwinter said. We have to tell the others. He committed the map to memory and turned to go, but Fellspring zipped in front of him. Wait, she said. Wait a second. Wasn't that kind of too easy? Fellwinter looked around. We've been here for hours, he said, and we've been searching for years. Sure, Fellspring said, but not as long as it took to find Siddhartha Gautama, not as long as it took to get away from him. Compared to all that, this was too good to be true. Fellwinter said nothing, and she went on, close to pleading. After everything, why would he do this? Why would he just drop this in your lap? He didn't, Fellwinter said. We found it. Fellspring didn't scare easily, but she sounded scared. He let us find it, Fellwinter. I'm almost positive. Fellwinter shook his head. No, we found it. He looked at his ghost. If anybody can get Rasputin to cooperate with the Iron Lords, it's us. We know him better than anyone. He paused. I know him better than anyone. He lowered his voice. This is it, Fellspring. This could change everything. The little red dot on the map blinked steadily like a beacon. They were still as they looked at each other, waiting. There was no real disagreement here. After all these years together, her doubts were his doubts, and his certainty was her certainty, whether they liked it or not. Sometimes, I wish we'd just stay on that mountain, Fellspring said finally. Alone. Me too, said Fellwinter, turning for the door. But we didn't. I like how the ghost is actually right in this. How it just fell into their lap a little too easily. Of course, we don't find out about that in this book. We found out about that during the mission. But Rasputin did just make it way too easy, and you see the growth of the trust between Ghost and Guardian with this conversation. You really kind of get a feel for how they work together, and how, even though it is kind of unconscious, there's still a give and take, and at least a respect for each other. I don't know if I would consider them best friends, but they definitely work together well. I don't necessarily consider them enemies either. It's not like a drifter situation here. But she's definitely pleading for him to listen to her. So there may have been disagreements before, but they're going to go ahead and go through with it, even though neither of them really like it. Any other thoughts on this one?
I mean, Amphion has a huge connection in Greek mythology. Amphion was, so there's a number of little keywords here. Amphion was actually the husband to Niobe. Here, call back to Niobe Labs from the Black Armory. And he was the brother to another figure called who went by the name of Zethus. And Amphion and Zethus were actually the twin sons of Zeus by Antipe. And the importance of these two characters was that they were both they were one of the big founding myths of the city of Thebes. And the reason why they are so important is because they are believed to have, in the mythology, constructed the city walls that surrounded and defended the city from pretty much all their attackers. Amphion was also known as a great singer and a musician. He was one of the beloved of Hermes, and Hermes was the one who taught him to play and gave him the golden lyre. So Amphion's lyre is right there. Whereas Zethus was a kind of a more hunter herdsman figure. Zethus was associated with agriculture and the hunt, and so his attribute was the hunting dog, while Amphion's was the lyre. And when the way that this played out was when they were building the walls of Thebes, Zethus was like constantly having trouble getting the stones to cooperate. Basically, he was always struggling. Amphion, on the other hand, just played his lyre, and the stones followed and gently glided into place. So, like, he has this.
He Pied Piper the rocks to
he
go
did
where
Pied
he wanted them to.
He's no Orpheus, but he's up there. Like, I mean, like, you know, I mean, now later Niobe would kind of get herself into trouble. Because she insulted Leto, which was the mom of Artemis and Apollo, and Artemis and Apollo slaughtered her children. So, yeah.
Typical Greek mythology.
Yeah, it's interesting. Amphion in that particular myth, Amphion commits suicide. But then, like, in a different version, Artemis and Apollo murder him along with their kids. So basically, it's because of his wife pissing off another god, he gets killed. He's like, and so And Zethus actually ends up accidentally killing himself, if I remember correctly. It's like a weird twist of fate.
Yeah, I think so.
But like the big thing with Amphion and Zethus is like they were one of the very few twins like within the mythology that actually had like really big roles. The other one was Castor and Pollux, which we kind of talked about earlier. They were called the Diosuri, and then Romulus and Remus, who were Romulus and Remus founded Rome. So it was just So Amphion's lyre is a pretty strong connection back to that mythology, because not only is it Amphion, but it's also his aspect, his lyre.
You know what would be very interesting, and this is just spin foiled just with the tie in the mythology that you gave out right there, is if the Niobe Labs and the Amphion had more in connection than within Destiny. So having the I know what you're thinking. Having the Amphium and the Siva aspect being a part of Ada's construction within Niobe Labs because of the connection between Clovis Bray and Niobe Labs.
Right. And I think the other thing is like in the same way that you see Amphion playing a lyre and the stones following him, you have the same kind of concept with Siva, and that's what they're talking about in chat right now. The lyre is code name for Siva. Dino's saying that. Sing to command the walls to build. Exactly. You program Siva and it happens. And so that's where the magic, if you will, of the lyre, Siva come into play.
Would that mean Amphium is the name of the project, and lyre is the tool that came from it? Like Niobe would be Niobe Labs, the name of that project or that group.
Well, Niobe Labs was
very likely.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that, because Niobe Labs wasn't Niobe Labs. I never ran Niobe Labs, so I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. That was the one that it was like creating all the different crazy stuff, right?
So yeah, I mean Niobe Labs was creating all the different Black Armory weapons.
Okay. Yeah. Which is connection to Niobe and her crazy fertility.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna let that statement stand for itself. I'm just gonna move on, because Niobe had a bit of issues with pride that definitely caused problems.
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Oh, pride in Greek mythology is just a problem in and of itself.
Right?
Yeah. Oh man, but that's something interesting as well. Is that when it comes to the lore of Destiny in general, look into Greek mythology.
Yeah.
It is just spattered all over the place. It is everywhere. It's and it's actually one of my favorite parts is of the Taken King. That first mission where you have to go to Phobos, and of course this is happening on Phobos. Phobos being the personification of fear in Greek mythology. It's like, yes, such a good tie-in. I love it.
Have you seen the mythology ties that we're getting this season? It's not exactly Greek mythology, more so Norse. There's a ton of ties to Norse mythology this season, between the ornament for Celestial Nighthawk being the three-eyed raven. I can't pronounce it because it's Norse and it's not easy they put consonants together that shouldn't go together.
For short. Just call it Bran for short.
Yeah, Bran.
Yeah.
Did you see the picture that they had one with like the creepy shader on it, and they're like, "Who did this?"
No. I mean, they should put the neon pop one on it just for fun, because that shader goes on everything just to make it 3 times more hilarious than it was before.
That's like the Jester's apogee is what it is.
But
if you've got the Victorian Silverhawk ornament for Celestial Nighthawk, use that with the New Age Black Armory shader. It will creep you out.
The Black Armory shaders just move, so those are just creepy anyway. I love those. That's actually one of the shaders on my back wall behind me in my office. But
No.
The other tie-in to Norse mythology is actually the tree in the cradle, the world tree.
Yggdrasil.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
just feel me.
I didn't see any
But,
snakes or
yeah.
worms underneath it, though. Bank.
Eris was there.
So the mistake.
Yeah, the mistake. Yeah. Well, let's see. That's adding into the world tree part there for a second. We do see that when we're going for our new subclasses. When we go to, of all places, Io. We're getting again seeing these tree
silver feathers.
organographies and then being taken over by this dark energy, which is kind of what the pyramid, at least it kind of seems like it might be doing there. So yeah, interesting.
So, you ready to finish off the book, Blue?
Yes, the mistake. Site 6 is locked down, Lord Saladin said. We have no idea what kind of security measures are in place. He leaned back in his seat at the grand wooden table in the Iron Temple. Golden Age tech is durable. We might be walking into a trap set centuries ago. Fellwinter stood nearby, arms crossed. I've infiltrated Golden Age facilities before. Hasn't been a problem. The mortar has barely dried in our city walls, Saladin said. We've driven the warlords back, but they are watching. This may not be the time for risk. Leaning with his elbow on the table, Timur looked between them. Besides, what about the Warmind? My understanding is that Siva is under its protection. Perhaps it won't take kindly to thieves. We're not stealing anything, Fellwinter said. And I think I can communicate with Rasputin. It's a computer, Lady Yolder said. It'll do what it's programmed to do, no matter how clever your arguments are. Rasputin's primary directive is to protect humanity. He'll listen. Timur said, smiling a little. So personal. Fellwinter looked at him, and then back at Saladin. With Siva, we could build more cities. We could help more people. Passion wasn't his strong suit, but he felt it now, more than he ever had before. We could create a new golden age. He's right, Scory said. We need a new way to give back. She looked between her companions. When you go to replant a forest, you don't stop after 1 or 2 saplings. The Iron Lords fell quiet. Yolder was frowning, but frowning meant thinking. Silmar looked worried. Radagast and Timur were on his side, Fellwinter knew. But the Iron Lords never did anything without consensus. The Golden Age isn't coming back, Saladin said finally. But you're right. Siva could change the lives of the people in the city. He leaned forward. It feels like a worthy risk. The others murmured among themselves, considering. Perun spoke above the chatter. Well, why not? We don't want people thinking the Iron Lords have retired, after all. Famous last words.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, what's interesting about these cards and some of the cards we've gotten, but the Fellwinter, the Liar book in particular, is you see Saladin as more of a leadership role than I thought that I personally believed back in D1, because it always seemed like Saladin was kind of like a secondary kind of guy compared to Radagast, because Radagast is always considered to be higher up on the hierarchy in some way, shape, or form. But you really see Saladin kind of have a bigger say at the table than a lot of the other Iron Lords, though I would imagine it's still fairly even if we were to actually tier them, but it's nice to see that actually played out.
Yeah, I like how Saladin plays the voice of reason, I guess, in a way. Like, it's almost like Saladin is playing devil's advocate here. Like, he's like, okay,
Yeah.
understand, though, this is the cost of what you're talking about. Like, he's basically, he's not saying no. He's just pointing out, why are we doing this? Like, I like how they have a very realistic kind of debate here about, like, okay, this is the pros and the cons Teamer's kind of insane. Everyone ignores him. Going back to the pros and the cons. Like, I just love how, like, Fellwinter looks at Teamer and then just goes right back to Saladin. Like, he's just like,
It was like, I'm so done with this kid.
yes, I'm going to actually shoot you this time.
Even though Teamer's the one that actually kind of figures out
Oh, God, yeah. Like,
the secret.
Oh, yeah.
but then doesn't figure it out the secret.
He's like Cade, kind of lucky, unlucky.
He stumbles on the truth and is just like, whatever.
It's fine.
He just completely ignores it. He's like, goes on. There is a little bit of leeway there where you can kind of be like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm going to tell you that I don't believe that, but I kind of think you are, and then it's just not going to bother me. Like, he kind of does seem to have that sunny disposition to an extent, where he could have well figured out the truth and go, you know what, but you're not that, and that doesn't bother me.
No.
Oh, I would have loved to see him and Kay just interact with each other.
Oh, God.
That would have been funny.
There's so many characters I want to see interact with Cade. Like, Cade has become an adjective to these characters at this point. You're very Cade-like, aren't you?
That is very true. Oh, that is very true. But yeah, this book really is it. Again, we get to see more interactions with the Iron Lords. We get to see them talking and having an actual debate about the pros and cons of each of the different options they have at this point, which is awesome. And you see Fellwinter, you know, and it states in it as well. You see him get a little bit fired up and go, no, this is it. This could be the turning point. I like that we get, even just in some throwaway or seemingly throwaway lines, we get a rough time frame for when this conversation is happening, which is exactly when, not too long after that, the fall of the Iron Lords take place. The city walls had just been built; they had just finished. So we know at this point that the like with the way that the city is structured, we know what characters are taking what characters are there in the city at the time. We know what characters are interacting with each other because we know roughly when this is taking place, which is always really kind of interesting to me. But yeah, so it's taking place just after the city's walls have been built, and you know, he's like, oh crap, you know, we could actually use this to really build up the city, really fortify the defenses, and just like kickstart a new golden age. And it's just the whole time you're reading this, well, the whole time I'm reading this, personally, I'm thinking, oh, they have no idea. They have no idea. Oh, God damn it, no. Yeah. Pretty much.
And then it all goes to hell.
In a handbasket.
Mm-hmm. Is the what was the entry that actually had the conversation between Fellwinter and Teamer?
There's two different ones. There's
Remembrance was the one, and Remembrance was the one that we saw Fellwinter's perspective, and then was it Lord Teamer? It was a Grimoire card. I think that
it was
saw.
the Grimoire card from day one.
Yeah. So we get to see that, which is good.
Which is probably not long after this card, because 13, this card, The Mistake, is the final card of the Liar book. And then I think the next thing that we get is the conversation between Teamer and
I don't know. I think that conversation might have even been before this particular entry.
You think that they hadn't told the Iron Lords yet?
Well, the only reason I say that is because at the end of that conversation, Teamer points out, like, he's like, oh, look, CB, Clovis. Like, it's kind of like Fellwinter kind of is like pretending to be dumb, it felt like. And here he's like, no, I've entered these bunkers before. So, and if he said, I entered those bunkers before, but then they had the conversation with Teamer, like, I don't know. I kind of took it the conversation went before this.
I think he meant I've entered these bunkers before in the general. I've entered the Seraph bunkers before, the multiple different Seraph bunkers that are out there. Not that he entered those specific bunkers with Siva in them.
Yeah, he says I've infiltrated Golden Age facilities before. Okay.
Yeah, it definitely kind of seems like that whole conversation with Tibet, it does happen some point before this, because they know by this point that Rasputin has control of Siva, that Rasputin is directly tied with Siva, which they hadn't really known before the lure at that point, because I mean that's where he would have made that connection with Rasputin anyway. I wonder whether or not they're getting the connection with Rasputin to Siva from the moment where Felwinter discovers it, or if they discover something else along the way in the meantime. But yeah, it kind of feels like, just from the general way the conversation is, the conversation scripted, that it might well take place before this little meeting.
I think so. Do we have any final thoughts on the book, The Liar?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I liked how it expanded on something that we already knew. Like, you know, it and this is a lot of the stuff that we've seen a lot of recently with them, is that they've taken events that are really key, you know, the Iron Tomb, this whole situation, and they basically reverse engineer it, and so they show us the path up to that event that we experienced in game, and they explain like all the pieces that led up to that, and then along the way they're also seeding in, you know, threads that will later get pulled on, which is that's just the way Bungie does it. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I also really like with like the remembrance piece where we see both sides of a conversation. You know, you see the one entry in here from Rasputin that kind of explains why he did what he did, a little bit at least, or it gives context to why he made the decision he did. And it also like I was saying, it also shows that he didn't just jump immediately to, well, we're just gonna kill him. Like that wasn't the immediate response. The immediate response was actually pretty passive. Like, he was just like, can I have it back? You know, like he was trying to bring him back. It was only when he was really kind of, it felt like, put in a corner that he then was like, all right, well, I can't let him just wander around. I don't know. I like giving, you know, regardless of the bias of those perceptions, the fact that we have different perceptions of the same event, I think makes it more easy to understand what actually is happening within this game world. And also then, you know, the more we understand about what has happened, the more we can kind of get our feet under us and see where we're going in a way. And you can start seeing the parallels that are being drawn and being created.
The thing that I'm curious about with this book is our story with this book complete? Like, is the information from this book only intended for the mission of Felwinter's Lie? Or is it also a setup for something that's going to happen later on in our story? Because that's another thing that Bungie loves to do, is you mentioned they leave threads behind to be taken up later. There are a few threads they could use from this and tie it into a topic that we're going to discuss in a few weeks with the legacy web lore, and actually make these two work together and tie it into the new information of Rasputin being downloaded into an engram, or at least as much as of him as Jinju could get. Yeah. So there are a lot of different threads for them to turn into new tapestries, or at least a bigger tapestry for us to see.
I definitely think that's the latter. of those two. I see just so many connections. You know, the revelation of, oh, a golem is an exo. Okay, well, like, you know, what we had kind of mentioned before with Dancing Viru. You know, we know there's another reference to a golem. Now, is that a separate golem? Where is that golem? You know, like, yeah, I mean, chat was talking about, you know, is that golem or golem is
Is it Elsie?
no,
Yeah.
no, yeah, my precious. Anyways,
Uh-huh.
sorry, I mispronounced it, and then I got myself on a tangent. Is that golem? You know, is that potentially the stranger? You know, like there's these different theories that you can just go wild on with these pieces of confirmation that we do get, and I think that, I mean, I hope, I mean, just same as the thing with Shin. I hope that we keep getting pieces of the story, because by no means is this a complete story. You know, there's even with the dates, even with the cards that gave us dates, there were months and years between those cards. That, you know, plenty of things could have happened that then color the decisions differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of story beats they could very well pick up here, and not just with Fellwinter in and of himself. I mean, the way that Rasputin interacts with Fellwinter throughout the story is, it can seem one-sided at the surface, but then you delve a bit deeper into it and you start seeing Rasputin, even just through this lore book and through the mission, is way more of a complex character than a lot of people give him credit for. You know, and this book really helps to show that. I thought it was really, really interesting. Right at the end there of that mission, it's like, oh, Rasputin's showing us where he started. You know, Rasputin's showing us basically a picture of himself when he was a child, and showing that, yes, I am similar to you in this aspect. I am like you. I had a beginning and I grew from that, and things happened, and I've had loss and I've had hardship, but he's showing us in the only way that he can. And it's through these moments, it's through Anna, it's through through this book, through the weapon, that he kept the weapon. He kept his son's go-to weapon, and I thought, that was just a really nice little, like, sweet moment, and it really helps flesh out Rasputin for me a lot more throughout this whole book in the mission. It just makes him seem just more and more, well, human, really, which has been really awesome to see. Yeah, and it's a nice little moment in. So yeah, it is in the Obsidian Wings, I'm pretty sure, where Fellwinter has the option to leave. It's right after this. At least I put it as right after this particular meeting and the mistake, where he has the option to straight up leave the
Oh
system.
yeah, Obsidian Wings.
And just Obsidian Wings, yeah. And he has the option to just leave. To leave it all behind. He doesn't have to go into this. It is most likely a trap, and he could avoid Rasputin forever. And he goes, no. Even though I could do it right now, no. He has to, at that point, just do what's right. And even though he knows he most likely is going to be coming out of this, he's got to try. Which is just a nice way to kind of just cap off the story of Fellwinter, at least timeline-wise.
Yeah, I like that idea, actually. That actually, I just reread that real quick, and that would be really kind of a nice end cap for the story.
Yeah, I put it in the end of my video regarding Fellwinter's Bly, that he models, especially in these last moments, he models for us the true beginnings of what it means to be a Guardian.
Yep. I had made a note about that too, actually. Oh, sorry, Green.
I was just gonna say, I love one of the things you had mentioned, the fact that it really shows the humanity of Fellwinter, the book does. And specifically, I think very much so, Fellwinter still taught Rasputin about humanity through it. Even with the fact that Rasputin ends up sicking Siva on the Iron Lords and Felwinter is killed during the Iron Tomb, or we're the ones killing him, it's not impossible to think that Rasputin didn't do one final upload with the information within Felwinter and learned those final pieces of well, he may have had those humanity beforehand, but still had more information.
And I like the irony, seems like the wrong word, but the right word at the same time, that even when he's air quote rebelling against Rasputin, Felwinter is still fulfilling his purpose of teaching the AI about humanity, which requires him to learn about humanity in the first place, which, you know, is what the up until Artie's entrance, that's what he was doing. And like I like that kind of that he can't escape his destiny. I mean, you know, like he is destined to teach Rasputin what it means to be human, to be able to pass that Turing test. And chat's, you know, talking about like, what if the Kalki golem is Rasputin? Like, what if that is the experimental you know, whatever. There's a lot of ways that could tie this story up very nicely. And you know, I do like what you just said, Green. Like, even when he's trying, it's because he's trying to become, or he's trying to protect humanity, that he actually ends up teaching arguably one of the most important lessons to the AI that becomes one of the defenders of humanity, or who is a defender of humanity, but almost can actually now understand why it is so important to defend humanity.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely get to see that in the end of the Warmind expansion. Yeah, like I am the defender of humanity. I have no equal, and a lot of people definitely took that as a very lofty kind of thing to say. But you see him just really try. He's trying so hard to connect with us, and he brings himself so low, and he shows us what it is that he did, the mistake that he made, the knowledge that he made that mistake. He knows how bad of a mistake it was, but it wasn't until after it had happened that he says he looks on his tyranny, and he weeps, and even more so, I think, than he did earlier when he had to make the decision to try and just get rid of Felwinter. He weeps at what he had to do, and you can almost feel that. You can almost feel Rasputin just, he's hurt, he's lost in these moments where he loses the only thing that he's ever had that's even come close to family for him. Felwinter was the only being in the universe that could comprehend the kind of existence that Rasputin has and understand him and translate for him to other humans, but also translate humanity to him. And Felwinter did that well. He did that incredibly well, even up to his last moments.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's a great place to wrap up and call it a night, or, well, a day for Stasis Warrior over here.
Stasis Warrior.
We've named so many things on this show. We shall name you too. Pancake.
Well, my little girl is her nickname's Baby Warrior now. Every time she comes up on stream,
nice.
Yeah,
I like it.
more like ice. Oh.
You gotta end strong with a pun.
Oh yeah,
I like it. It took me a second, not gonna lie. It is midnight.
Don't worry, it usually happens.
So should we do shout outs?
Yes.
Awesome.
Ice Warrior, what do you got for us for this one? Any big shout outs for us?
Yeah, so be sure to follow me at all my social medias and stuff. The Ice Warrior 1 on Twitter, Ice Warrior 209 on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Massive thanks to you guys for having me on the show. I've absolutely loved it. It's been a lot of fun. And everyone in chat who has stopped by, you guys are awesome. I hope to jump in with you guys on another episode at some point in the future.
Absolutely. We'll get you back on here after the little one is born, Elsie. So congratulations from us here on that one, since that is happening any day. Is it you said second child, first daughter, or second daughter?
Second daughter. My technically she's my first biological daughter, as my other little one, Amara, isn't biologically mine, but she's still my daughter. So
yes,
that's all that matters.
And it is. I'm very excited, and I'm really happy that Elsie hasn't decided to arrive in the middle of the podcast. That's been great.
As are we.
She's very considerate.
It would have been your wildest and most popular episode ever. She's like, the law has to be put aside, the baby is being born. And it's like, hey, chat, welcome the Exo Stranger on the stream. I need to get a plush of that thing that the Exo Stranger has in the trailer and just give it to.
The little fish buddy.
Fish ghost, not a ghost, but fish drone thing that's out there. Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty.
And Luke Smith said we might be able to get it, which is awesome.
Oh yay! I did not see that part.
That's
he was on Dr. Lupo's stream.
Lupo asked him, and he's like, "Well, not right now." Lupo looked at the camera.
It's like later on, perhaps in a year or two.
Always good ideas. The things that the community gravitates towards. But yeah, so major one for you as far as a congratulations from us, and a big thank you for joining us on this one and dealing with the interesting aspect of scheduling when it comes to being in very different parts of the world. So major thank you for that, and your wife for letting us steal you for 3 hours to record this episode.
She's used to it at this point.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad she's a good woman. That's like, I'm trying to think of a good way to end this that's not going to get me in trouble. She's a good woman. We'll make it that.
She is.
But yes, Blue, any shout outs for you, sir?
No, just again, big thank you to everyone who has sent us feedback. Most notably, Arf and Worthy D. We appreciate that. And then obviously, if you guys have any feedback, please let us know your thoughts. Also, big thank you to everyone who has given us feedback on the weekly lore roundup over with the Lore Network. We are glad to see the good responses, and so we're definitely going to continue doing that. We were going to continue doing it anyways, but now at least I feel good about doing it. But yeah, that's all I got. Other than that, I just want to thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
All right. Yay. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been amazing. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Definitely, next time you see me tweet out about guest, be sure to hit me up. I try to gather a list of people who are like, yes, I want to do this again, because it is nice to have a group of people to pull from that are as knowledgeable as you are. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate just getting to talk about the lore. Like, I've said this to so many of my mates, especially one I'm really trying to get into the game, but he absolutely refuses because he knows he'll just never put it down.
Yep.
It's nice being able to talk with people who are as passionate and knowledgeable about the lore as I am, instead of me just talking about it myself on stream. So yeah, absolutely, it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I'll be on the show as much as you'd want me.
Yeah, I like that. I will definitely keep that in mind. And it's nice that the timing actually does work out for us as far as.
Oh, yeah, thank God.
Oh my God! When we figured that out, I was like, "Thank fuck," because we've done some rescheduling where we're up at I'm up at 7 a.m., which is generally when I'm up, but it's not a fun time to try to be entertaining because I've not
I
had
know.
coffee or drinks or
Yeah.
anything like that at 7
But-
a.m.
I'm always like any major release for pretty much every game freaking ever, but especially Destiny. I was always like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's either I go to bed insanely early and wake up, or I just stay awake, and it is a battle to try
Oh,
and be
yeah.
entertaining in those moments, and it's every goddamn time. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah, I don't
please,
doubt it.
please, can we just have one situation where they release something that's not at like ridiculous hours of the morning here in Australia? But that's never going to happen.
This is true. You just need to make your own gaming company down there. That's what needs to happen. They need to have one that happens in Australia. Just major AAA title needs to move down there. Problem is you guys got to get better internet, or at least parts of Australia need better internet.
Don't like
There's
that.
this-
That is a good way to trigger any nerdy Australian is saying just better internet.
There's a problem called the
God.
ocean.
It's not even that. It's a problem called it is like our national broadband network is like at least 10 years behind most of the
Yeah.
Western world, and I have big, massive problems with it. But yeah,
You
that's what
have
happens
the
when you go to
same
like
kind of
cities.
internet I had in the middle of Kansas, in essentially a wheat field. Like the out, like
Enemies will destroy the fiber. It's funny because I'm not sure how much you know about Australia, but we actually once had to commit a war on emus.
oh, Man at Arms has
Agree.
let us know multiple
Good.
times.
I'm glad he has, because the fact that we lost that is
Twice.
just
Twice. We lost twice. How the fuck?
very well apparently. Like only in Australia would you go, we're bored, what are we going to do? Emus are a
We're gonna
problem, we're going to
fight the
commit war
fucking
on them and then
emus.
lose.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's look, it's not one of our proudest moments. Let's just put it that way.
It is one of the most endearing ones, though. How does the
They are pretty tasty.
Yeah, I've actually had emu steak before. There's
And
a ranch out
emu.
here. Emu.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
how it's pronounced, and it is surprising how many people say it like that. It's always a thing that like every person I've talked to that lives outside of Australia is that it's always yeah, so yeah, tell us more about the emus. And I was like, what? Yeah, that's right, emus.
Yeah.
Always yeah, super turkeys. Yeah,
To
that's
be
exactly
fair,
right, Black Flag.
to be fair though, emus are tough as hell. Like they take quite
Yeah,
a
they have a
bit.
cousin. They have a cousin called a cassowary.
Oh
Not sure if you,
god.
Yes. Aren't those the ones that
Is it
have
like-
like a little mohawk kind of thing
Yeah.
on their head? Yeah.
It's like this weird peacock, like colorful
Uh-huh.
mohawk thing, and at least one person every year dies to a cassowary on average.
Because they're
They sound like a bunch
fucking
of dicks.
terrifying.
They're dinosaurs.
Look up a picture. Look up a picture. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed.
Australia,
And
the
they don't-
land lost to
oh.
time.
Yeah, it's a bit like even listen to them just yell. Nothing about that animal seems right.
Yeah. There's a lot of animals in your neck of the world, your neck of the woods that are a little terrifying on multiple levels. They're just reading through like all the different species that live in Tasmania alone, not much less Australia. It's just like no. I deal with prairie dogs on a daily basis. I'm good.
See, for me, it's funny. It's like a national. It's like this national like consciousness thing of okay. Whenever anyone from overseas asks us about Australia, we make it sound as terrifying as possible, purely because it's funny. That's it. It is a joke we play on the
Sure.
rest of the world. There are some
Sure.
dangerous parts to Australia. That don't get me wrong, but it's nowhere near as bad as what most of us make it out to be.
Oh, I'm sure. It's just like people talk about the idea of a tornado being very terrifying to them. And I don't know about Blue being where he was in Texas, how many tornadoes he got, but I've
we had
lived
'em-
through.
Yeah, we had them
I've-
all the freaking time.
Yeah, I lived through so many growing up, 2 that actually hit the building that I was in, and a few during college and stuff like it's you can run from a tornado.
Yeah,
You don't really want to, but you
yeah,
can.
no. Short of it being an F5, and then that's just when you're just like, yep, nice knowing you, but bye. Like, it's just
What like I would like to be able to say why would you build stuff in the middle of those kinds of areas like Tornado Alley? How is that even a thing? But in saying that,
Well, there's not
we have
many
a lot of those
people
areas
out
up here.
there. And
Yeah.
then it's just like us asking the people in California, why the fuck would you build it on a fault? Or people in Florida, like, alligators, really? Like, the swamp? There's not even solid land down there, plus the mosquitoes. Like, just poor choices. Poor choices all over the U.S.
poor choices.
Asia wants your country back. Oh, I mean, you're not entirely wrong.
Uh-huh. Oh, my goodness.
No, I don't chase them. I know people who do that. They're nuts. Like storm
Chasing
chasers.
tornadoes.
Yeah, storm chasers.
Mm.
They're certifiable. I don't know a single one of them that I would not applaud. Like, and they would admit it themselves. Like that, it takes a very special type of person to
Did
do
you
what they
see the
do.
movie Twister? The old movie Twister? Do you
Mhm.
remember the driver in Twister? Not even the weathermen that are out there. The driver.
I have not seen that movie in a very long time.
But the
Mhm.
Ooh.
the cows were the best part.
That does not happen.
No.
That
Well,
does
I mean,
not happen.
cows get picked
Not
up,
when they're
but they don't stay
when
that
they're
way.
alive.
They don't stay that way very long.
Yeah. Just the fact that the damn thing mooed as it went by, you're like,
No.
It just move out of the way. To be fair,
Mm.
Australians would like. I would like to say most of us, but maybe not. Had we had tornadoes here, oh yeah, we would be going after that. That would just be a thing. It's just like you just get the
guys
boys
hear?
together over a weekend, get a couple of beers, and let's just start running after them.
just driving after it. Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at Steve Irwin. He was the epitome of everything that was Australian. It's like, oh, here's a giant prehistoric animal that could literally kill you faster than you could blink, and I'm gonna stick my head in his mouth.
Yep.
I'm gonna wrestle it. I'm gonna do that.
One of the amazing things about that perception of Australians, because I've know a few Australians who don't personify that as much, but that personification, that grand title of the Australian, is not so different than a very specific group in the U.S. who are also very apt to go after dangerous things and do things that they
Hold my beer.
probably shouldn't. Hold my beer. Bubba, let's go get them. Granted, you guys are a lot more
Right.
intelligent about it than any of the rednecks that I know.
I love that. Oh!
It depends who you ask.
Okay.
We certainly have our own rednecks over here that we call bogans.
Mhm.
The bogan side of things. I unfortunately live in a suburb surrounded by such people. To put this into perspective, my partner's mother, who we lived with for a little while after lost our house due to some unforeseen circumstances like storms and everything. So while we were searching for a new place, we were staying with her. Right next door lived a drug dealer, and that drug dealer's house got firebombed one night.
Oh God.
So
Oh,
that was
meth
fun.
lab explosion or like actual arson.
Actual, I'm going to drive by and throw some Molotov cocktails through the windows.
Yep.
And yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah. Adventures. That's what we like to call them. Makes it seem less desperate.
Unfortunately, I actually live like a straight or two up the road from where that happened now.
Oh
So I
no.
haven't gotten too far away from it.
Yeah, I grew up in Southwest Kansas where there were quite a few meth lab explosions, unfortunately. Luckily, none in the town that I lived in directly, but there were a lot around us. It's so crazy. People are
That's like a
crazy.
GTA mission. That's
Yeah.
exactly right, Black Flag. My life is a GTA mission, I swear, sometimes.
GTA
Weird stuff
mission with
happens to
more
me.
animals.
Mm.
All right. Well, I'm going to hop off because I do have to work in the morning. It was very nice to record with you, Ice. I appreciate you more than you really know. It makes it real nice because we sometimes will get guests who are just like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you definitely did. So thank you.
Well, as I said, thank you for having me on. It's been wonderful getting to chat with you guys and just have a bit of fun and talk lore, and yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm all about. I love it.
and just talk in general. It's fun to be able to chat afterwards and not feel awkward about things.
Yeah, we all seem to get along pretty well, so it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Have a good night, stream. Night, Blue.
Night and stream. Guys, have a great night. We will see you next week. Bye.
See you all later.